Well, hello there, everyone. Well, if you guys already know me, if you guys don't, then my name is Kiray Vacuo. But here's the main point I'm doing this weird starting is like, I'm a Malaysian. English may not be my first language, but I do speak them. And you know how complex English sometimes, that, some word actually have like a double entendre meaning. So, yeah, I think I even used that word wrong. But still, like in a way, it's time to like say like let you guys know a little bit about this particular things that later on you guys will encounter in the video. Is I will keep saying shadow boxing because I think because I realized that I use it in the wrong way, because originally the intentions is like all this fiasco happened, like all this thing that happened is generally because there is a certain few people decided to start shadow boxing an invisible opponent. It's like they're fighting an invisible opponent for no reasons, and then like create such a shit show for no reasons. And there is some reason of it, but it's a very misled and misguided reasons, and then they don't understand like the nuance a little bit too much. They do, but also in the same time they kind of like not enough. It's a very complex situation. So I keep like later on I keep mentioning at the end, once I understand most of the context, I realize everyone doing in there is just fighting an invisible opponent and end up like in a very like complex like situations for this one, which is I would say unfortunate, or maybe not fortunate. I don't know. This is again like I'm just a voice actor wannabe. If this thing is gonna be bite me in the ass in futures, I don't know what to say. So just enjoy the show, okay? You guys can somewhat skip the intro. It's just I'm just like showing you guys what kind of headspace I have before diving into the issues and the entire like Mujin video. So yeah, you guys enjoy. Welcome to the Kiray Vacuo stream. My name is Kiray Vacuo, and I'm your host and your voice here to entertain you and may not know what the heck I'm doing. Today is going to do a little bit of watch along stuff about some things that involve like voice acting. As you all know, I want to become a voice actor, but those things takes times, and I do need to I do need to like sometimes like understand how the voice acting field work, and this situation completely like confused the heck out of me. I just got into like voice acting not long ago, like actual website that like post like a lot of like voice acting gig, and then you join into it, and for some reason like there's so many like AI stuff like bombarded into there. Like I'm not saying like the use of AI this and that, yeah, there stuff is like like there's a lots of like AI conversation happening in there. I did talk about like my stance on AI art. It's like I don't mind the AI stuff. Lots of people keep saying like death to AI art. Is for me personally, I don't really say like death to AI art. I'm more pissed off about the people who use AI art rather than like the AI art itself, to be honest, because they don't understand how technologies works, and then they just, the main thing is like they think they know how to use the technologies. It's like you think you know how to use the calculators, and then call yourself an engineer. I know it's a very big like difference the way I talk about, but it's essentially the same thing. The moment you know how to use ChatGPT to say like calculate the volume of my trunk, how many school bag that I can stuff it in, if I squeeze them in, like they can calculate for you, doesn't mean that you turn into an engineer. It's the fact that people use AI and then claim themselves as that professions. That's the one that pissed me off. It's not the fact that they use AI. is like, long as people are doing it in a very ethical way, then I'm fine with it. The problem is when they are not actually using it in the proper ethical way. Then I will be having issues with it. Imagine like if I do a voice acting work and someone decided to say like, it's because of my physical conditions. I can't. Sometimes I might not be like, like always be okay with things. And then they will send me a message, be like, "Oh, I understand your situations, but we need this voice line to be done. But yeah, due to circumstances, we can use AI if you want it, and then we will pay you the royalty from using it." Then I'm fine with it. Obviously, like if they want to like keep using that, it's like I'm fine with it, because as in maybe like in some like media stuff, yeah, you can't do that, but like like TV series or like anime, like if you want to use that, it might be a little bit harder because like you need more like emotion and stuff like added into it. But when it comes to like some games, that some games actually need like thousands or millions of like voice line, and then you have to deliver, like you have to deliver so much. Yeah, you can get lots of pay from that, obviously, but like I do see like the appealing of like being a game maker, like have a much more like options for you to make a game if like AI voice is introduced. But still, again, like it's going to be a little bit much more different point of view, because like if you view it under the guise of like just how most company treat like how AI stuff, and then like basically they just treat it as like free money. Because like if you hired a voice actors to do like entire voice line for a game, it might cost you from like 200 to like 1,000, like depends on how big the game, like maybe like more than like a 10,000-ish or like 8,000-ish kind of like fee accumulated together as time goes, especially when you do like live service game. So they want to like, oh, what happened if I just subscribe to this site and then I can generate AI voice, and the subscriptions is only like like a month, maybe it's just like $50. You in a business standpoint, you see why they choose that. But the scummy part is like they use your voice, but they never really pay you the royalty while like they're using your voice to do the AI stuff. So that is like the scummy part of like how like corporate like using AI. Like I say again, I never have anything against AI. I'm more like against like the person who don't really understand the technologies and then try to take advantage of it in a very, very misguided way. Yeah, that's the thing. Again, the analogy of like you can ask ChatGPT to help you, or like any AI to help you do calculations, doesn't mean you are an engineer. Okay, it's a very different thing. But yeah, like it become like a very like big taboo, and then later on like some very big drama happened within like the SAG-AFTRA stuff. Like if you guys know like the very like annoying Paimon voice in Genshin Impact, the English voice actor, it seems like she suddenly went like a very big crash out for no reasons. Technically there is some reasons, but I think like here's the thing: there's always justifications on anything, but sometimes there will always that one persons that go overboard with their own justifications. It's like you're trying to fight something for a while, and then it will went past the point you forgot what you're fighting. And then you have your own justification in your brain, and then that version is your version, not like the entire group versions. But when that thing like goes through your head, and then you start like going like off rail on your own, it can impact like the things that you actually fight for a lot. This is why I personally don't stand on any side. Even I might have a side, I will not like really hard stand on like some certain side to like do anything. You can just call me fence sitters, or the guy that like the third party that see everything happen and have the popcorn in their hand. But even I have a side, I won't be like those kind of people like advocate it or this and that yet stuff, because personally I know one thing: I'm just a guy in the internet. I'm not smart enough to navigate this kind of field, even is involved with my professions. If I'm not I don't have a good enough understanding, I will not go out my way to like cause shit happens. It's similar with like like this like there's so many like activists nowadays. It's been like they already doing that thing. At first it was maybe like actually there's a good reason for it, but as time goes, all justification always will lost the plot. And this is no exception on any other things. Every single thing, once it went long enough, it will lose its justifications. Especially when you keep doing something and then things like will keep on evolving to a point that is like went overboard and stuff, they will always go overboard. And yeah, when there's conflict, there's always like two sides have some issues, and maybe one side is like more like more morally correct than the other side, or like some other things that happens, like there's a reason that why this group having conflict with that group, and then you understand it. But sometimes like even both sides are justified. Once it gone long enough, both side is going to be wrong. I'm not even kidding. It's like you fight a righteous stuff, even you fight for something that is like righteous. You fight long enough, you just lost the plot. If you've been stalemate for like a very, very long time, and you still keep fighting, more and more people that will have like a twisted version of the original things that you're fighting. It's like a super telephone effect. And once it reached that point, the original people who started it will have zero control on the twisted ideology that happened later on. And once that happened, you will lose the capability to fight what the original were fighting on. This is why when it comes to activisms, don't like if you want to run activism, please run a very, very like effective activisms, and try to set it up in a way that you only run for a while instead of like for a very, very long time. People can have like different variations. You can start up another one with the same thing but slightly different variations, but don't stay in one type of like ideology when you're fighting for way too long, because people will have their own interpretations. It's like poem. I might write a poem that I'm slowly going crazy, and then some people might interpret my poem as like some state of art that's so like high IQ to the point that even I don't understand how to interpret it. So yeah, different people have different interpretations. Maybe at the first, like everyone understand what you're trying to convey the message. Like even that, if you went long enough, people will have like different interpretations as time go, and then there are more people interpret the wrong interpretations, and then go even further wrong into the interpretations. That's how extremist happens. And then like have like a lot of like weird ass ideology like slowly popping up, this and that, yeah, that stuff. It is a very, very like double-edged sword, to be honest. It's like a very difficult stuff. Like anything have a certain difficulty. If you don't really have the capability to handle that, then you have to shut it off way early that day. And maybe let someone else start again and see anything like happen, and start again and see anything happens. Like things run too long can be an issue, from what I can say. Especially when it comes to conflict of interest and this and that, yeah, that stuff. It's a lot of. It's a very complex thing. You really need like some PhD guy to actually study this kind of stuff. But yeah. Let's go back to like the original intent that one I'm coming for. Mujin, you know, the guy is actually I actually very impressed how the guy actually write his stuff, because like the way he write it is like so his type of like alley, I think. Like, you know, it's really hard to write a script in your voice, especially when you study how to write a script and stuff. And when you kind of like talk about it, you feel like you're reading a script. But that is like a whole new different skill when you can write a script in a way, maybe like in grammar side, or like how grammar functions, this and that, yeah, stuff. You definitely wrote the wrong shit and wrong format. But because the way you write it is so match up how your own like tone and behavior, it's just match your voice 100%. Good writing, in a way, is bad. Is writing in bad way that is become a good writing, but it's only working for you because you wrote it in your own voice. And then the way you talk about things, like become like very, very accurate somehow, like confidence, the this and that, yeah, that stuff. It's a very like important skill, especially when you try to like do lots of like script writing yourself, and then for yourself. This is a very key point of skill that you should have. Either way, you know, let's not like stay in here for a little bit too long. Yeah, let's enjoy this 1.5 ish hour of shit shows that documentary of this entire issues.
On July 26th.
Holy shit, it's loud! On my side. My speaker is like ridiculously loud.
2024, the biggest video game strike in history took place. The 160,000 SAG-AFTRA union members were prevented from working on any video games from the publishers included in that strike. The reasoning behind this was the fact that AI was going to take over their jobs unless they got the studios to agree to new contract terms protecting their performers. What many weren't expecting though is that after 8 months, the strike would produce no results, and players started to feel the impact. But even though that was the case, the majority was still on their side, fully and unconditionally hoping that they get the rights that they deserve. This is why it was so incredibly shocking to see all the progress of this strike get absolutely squandered in the span of just 1 week because of a few.
Yeah, this is why I say like do not run a certain ideology for too long. It will get twisted very fast, especially when you have like people that is like a little bit too extreme that would twisted it like even faster. And because like when it comes to like this kind of like united to do something stuff, it's really mob mentalities. If one guy decided to go stray, it's like they will be certain like a part of the mob will go stray at the same time. If you don't have the ability to control everyone individually, your activism is just going to screw up.
Two entitled voice actors, specifically ones that worked on Genshin Impact.
You know what? Actually, I should do something else. It's been a while. Let me try this. I'll be on the spot changing some stuff, okay? Let's have this thing. Might jump scare you guys because the moment I pause is a little bit scary. It's definitely a little bit scary looking. And I'm going to move myself away a little bit. Okay. Man, the face is scary sometimes. Like, I do have a like that kind of like one eye open, bigger than the other eye kind of face too. Especially when I'm in angle, it is even worse. So personally, I'm also very conscious about those kind of things too. So yeah, let's watch a shit show together. Together, we strong.
This got so bad that the once supportive community has now called for all of them to be replaced mid-strike, completely catching them by surprise. Even worse, this controversy opened up a can of worms and people started to look into the union itself, the one who organized this strike. This caused an incalculable amount of PR damage to the union as people started to find out its inconsistent, shady, and overall weird history so far, questioning why voice actors and performers in general don't have a better union to represent them. And if that wasn't bad enough, one of the entitled Genshin voice actors that caused this mess posted an 8-minute rant in front of a toilet complaining about all the harassment they've received while saying that they could vomit at any second. By the way, that voice actor voices the most important character in the entirety of Genshin Impact. Guys, this might be my most requested video of all time. Now, there are a few reasons for that, but it's mostly because
the replacement is going to earn a lot, and also at the same time having lots of jobs at the same time. It's going to be very difficult for that particular person who's going to replace her if they really decided to replace her. But if you did manage to, like, here's the thing, like I don't know where the professionalism like is gone when it comes to stuff like this. Like, you can have it in your own personal time, I guess, but you if your job is to represent the company and then you decided to take such a big step, you really have to prepare to get fired. You know, this is some things that people have to like understand. If your job, more or less your face is out there, you're somewhat already represent a certain entity. If you decided to go against that entity, you just have to like accept that you'll get fired. Yeah, you look at Snow White, you already understand. You have to accept you get fired at some point. It's not like you shock, you punch at people, you get punched back, something like that. It's like, if you're shocked at that point, you shouldn't. You should really think about things before you start talking. You know, it's that way lot more people doing jobs that is basically you are the public face, and they don't really have a public face. You know, I had a tiny bit of water left. I just have to like finish it. My bottle is full. But yeah, if you lost that professionalisms, you shouldn't have that job. I'm not even kidding. It's like if your thing is about being that public and then you don't really have that professionalisms to stay at a neutral lane, like at least don't say any jack shit. Like you can say it in a hush hush form, but just don't say any jack shit. It's very important, you know? And to be honest, I think like I should full screen it so people can see. Oh shit. Hold on a little bit. Yeah, people can't see like where Mujin like thing is. I do want to credit him when he did such a long video. He deserved it. So hold on a little bit. Let me move up this thing. Move up the chat so you guys can kind of like see where this come from. Since I blocked like half of the view, you guys want to watch it, just go to his channel, find this particular video. That is his latest video, by the way. You guys can go and watch it, or either mirroring it at the same time if you guys manage to be able to. But yeah.
Because while it is a crazy situation, it's also one of the most confusing. And
let me go front a little bit.
The most important character in the entirety of Genshin Impact. Guys, this might be my most requested video of all time. Now, there are a few reasons for that, but it's mostly because while it is a crazy situation, it's also one of the most confusing. And seeing that this is definitely going to be an unforgettable part of the internet's history, I thought it would be necessary to talk about it. So, without further ado, let's do this. Alright, so to really understand what's been going on, we have to go back to the absolute fundamentals. What the hell is a labor union anyway? Well, the definition is an organization formed by workers in a particular trade, industry, or company to improve pay, benefits, and working conditions. In other words, when you negotiate your salary, you're negotiating your worth, and as one person versus an entire corporation, the corporation clearly has the advantage over you. There's only so much you can ask for before they say, well, we'll just hire the 1,000 other applicants that wanted this job. The whole point of a union is negotiating as one body of workers versus negotiating individually. That way you can give the company actual consequences for refusing to negotiate, like not working and making them lose a lot of money in the process. That's what striking is, and it's a union's biggest weapon.
I do think like this is like something from the industrial era, right? And it's very Western things. I think in Asia stuff like they do happen, but like on their own versions. But it's not like, you know, it's not like in a way that how like the Western started. Yeah, it's a little slightly different, but they doing it in parallel. You can kind of say they're parallel adjacent.
Unions have actually been around for a long time, ever since the Industrial Revolution, so the 19th century. Many of these new workers in factories were coming from farms and more traditional crafts, and were being treated pretty damn badly by the factory owners. They would decide to group together and negotiate as one, but for the US specifically, most unions fell apart due to bad management, and at the same time, their rights weren't recognized. Unions were not protected in any way legally. This would all drastically change in the year of 1935 when the Wagner Act would be passed under President Franklin Roosevelt. It guaranteed the right of private sector employees to organize into trade unions and engage in collective bargaining. In other words, it gave them the right to negotiate as one body rather than individual workers. And it also, more importantly, gave them the right to strike. From that year onwards, unions started to become way more popular. You wouldn't see them just popping up for trades like construction or plumbing. No, they would literally be everywhere, even in entertainment. You would have a labor union by the name of the Screen Actors Guild, otherwise known as SAG, representing actors in Hollywood, and you would have another union, the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, otherwise known as AFTRA. They would represent everyone else in entertainment, anything from a radio talk show host to a stuntman. We'll get back to SAG and AFTRA in a bit, but for now, just know that this was the golden age for unions. But just like any golden age, it had to come to an end eventually. This paper by John Addison highlights the pros and cons of unions in America. And while they do have a lot of pros, one can't help but notice that once a union gets powerful enough, it has the potential under bad leadership to become the exact same thing it seeks to fight against: a monopoly.
Yeah, like I say again, this is what I just told you guys at the very beginning. I did talk a lot about it, but end up like it's kind of the same. Yeah, the way you phrase it is much more better, but it's definitely like same identical thing that I talk about.
As unions started to become more popular and numerous, they would start to have rivalries. At the same time, you'd also see a new invention pop up, a union shop, a workplace that would only hire you if you were a part of its union. This concept wasn't very popular because not everyone wanted to join a union. They had their reasons. Some people didn't want to pay the agency fees associated with a union. These are fees typically taken monthly or yearly to keep the union running, while some others simply just wanted to retain their independence, being freelancers or contractors. But these union shops gave them no choice. And this must be very confusing to you if you're a European. In France, for example, employees strike like every week at this point, but only 10% of employees are actually part of a union. That's because in France, if a union successfully gets more rights, like, I don't know, 2 more days of parental leave a year, everyone, regardless if they're in a union or not, gets that benefit. So union shops were definitely counterintuitive. Additionally, what didn't help during the golden age was that some people realized that having a union full of thousands, maybe sometimes hundreds of thousands of employees under your command was very powerful. So you did have a couple of instances where crime syndicates would infiltrate unions to gain power and use that power to extort others. At some point, one of the biggest unions in the country, the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, with over 1.3 million members, had their president, Jimmy Hoffa, effectively use the $2.2 billion pension fund that was meant for employees' retirement as his personal bank account. He would use it to invest in property, to bribe certain officials, whether politicians or mafia bosses, and Forbes called it the most abused, misused pension fund in America back in 1980. Just like Uncle Ben told Peter Parker, with great power comes great responsibility. And some people chose to completely abuse that power. But the killing blow for unions, really the final nail in the coffin, actually came after giving them more rights. You see, the Wagner Act only gave private sector employees the ability to unionize. But on 1962, almost 30 years later, John Kennedy decided to make it possible for public sector employees to unionize as well. This meant that government employees were able to not only create unions, but join them too. There was one very important condition in this executive order though, and that was you are forbidden to strike as a public sector employee. 19 years later, that rule would be broken under the most anti-union president in United States history, Ronald Reagan. In 1981, a union of air traffic controllers by the name of Professional Air Traffic Controllers Organization organized a strike. 13,000 of its 17,500 members walked off the job. They all wanted a $10,000 a year pay raise, as well as a 4-day work week as opposed to a 5-day work week. And finally, a full retirement after 20 years of work. Air traffic controllers are technically public sector employees. Ronald Reagan gave them 4 days to get back to work or all be fired. Within 4 days, 1/4 of the striking employees came back. The rest were all fired, which led to the complete decimation of this union. After this incident, strike rates in the country would go down significantly and unions would slowly but surely die out a slow, painful death. As it stands today, private sector unions are at their lowest in the last 50 years. And in most industries, unions are struggling to even keep their current members, except for one industry in particular, and that's entertainment. This brings us back to both SAG and AFTRA, the two biggest unions for anything entertainment related. Seeing that they both practically own the entertainment world, they decided to merge in 2012 to really consolidate their position as the premier.
Well, even a person who is pro-union, like I say, I'm kind of like fine with AI, but I'm not good with how people utilizing AI. He might be, like, here's the thing, like, he might be pro-union, but if you see people abusing the power of like a thing you really view upon as a good thing, you will take actions, especially people from powers. They say like, this is a good thing, you're abusing it, I fucking love this thing. Now you're making it this like hard for me to say fuck you. But I still have to say fuck you because I'm working in high positions. Like those kind of things. Yeah, because like everyone have their own personal view, so it become like a really, really like, you know, like it's a very complex thing. So when it comes to this kind of things, it's like a lot of like you and me, this and that, yeah, and stuff. Union might look as like one entity, but it's still, you know, being controlled by one guy. It essentially is still being controlled by one guy. If that guy didn't do it in a way that how other people perceived it, things would gone like really, really bad. I already told you, like, representing an entire entity is a difficult job. And doing such things can do more harm than do good sometimes, if you don't know what the heck you're doing. you might have come in with like a very good intentions, but if you don't know what the heck you're doing, you don't really understand truly everything, and you screw up the entire entity. Like I say again, like this comes to like a lots of professionalisms that is just gone at a moment notice. Like how like you can see like Rachel Ziegler like on the Snow White thing. She literally tossed all her professionalism out the window, and despite her appearance is represent an entire movie or like entire entity like Disney, she just went off the handle and don't care about anything. She care about her own things, I mean. So despite maybe at some point she really do it like with a personal like what his thinking is a very good intentions. But if you don't really pay attention to the environment and then do something you think is a good thing, it doesn't essentially you're doing a good thing. This is why like professionalism, especially in the entertainment industry, is really important to stay shut up. Even you have your own ideology, stay shut up in public face. Maybe you can try to fight it in your own way that no people can see it. Maybe like represent as an entity or something like that. It's like once you do that, you have to understand. You kind of like once like you know like that there's like a lot of like things like happens in there. Like if you try to like do something, it's going to impact an entire entity you represent. If you pick that choice, you have to expect like the consequences of a lot of things, especially when you're a public entity. I feel sad about it too, is because like when you try to do some things and you're a public entity, you kind of like got hand tied. You can't really do too many things without affecting too many people. Especially when your face become like a representation of like some certain entity already. That is like you might think like, oh, it's fun to become famous. It's fun to become like a star. It's fun to people complimented you when they see you. Those kind of things. Like everything is double-edged sword. There's like a caveat of everything. Imagine if I really become a voice actor. Do you think I can say this kind of stuff? No, definitely I can't. I'm right now is just doing some like voice for fun at the moment. I do want to become an official voice actor, but I never got like a connections to actually, I never got a connection to actually get myself into voice acting. So once I actually become one, this thing will come bite me at the ass. Trust me.
Union for anything entertainment related. But that's not all. Ever since merging, they have been making bank, dude. From 2012 after merging until 2022, they made over $1 billion in member dues and non-member fees. As if that wasn't enough, its membership climbed to record highs as
Let me go through front a little bit since I talk a little bit too much. People might miss the context.
Unions for anything entertainment related. Seeing that they both practically own the entertainment world, they decided to merge in 2012 to really consolidate their position as the premier union for anything entertainment related. But that's not all. Ever since merging, they have been making bank, dude. From 2012 after merging until 2022, they made over $1 billion in member dues and non-member fees. As if that wasn't enough, its membership climbed to record highs as other unions struggled to even exist. SAG-AFTRA was killing it with a record 171,000 active members paying their fees. I mean, look at these earnings. In 2022 alone, they made over $101 million in membership fees. How is that even possible? Well, it might have to do with the fact that in order to join them, you have to pay a $3,000 initiation fee. But that's only the beginning, because after joining, you have to pay over $236 a year, as well as 1.575% of any money you earn every year in order to stay in the union. Even by labor union standards, that's a lot. So what do they offer in return? Well, they offer healthcare as well as pension/retirement plans like most unions. Oh, they have deals and discounts as well as discount films. Okay, you know what? It's totally worth the price tag. But you want to know what's even better? After paying $3,000 to join, you only get health coverage if you meet applicable earnings thresholds. And you only get pension contributions when you're working SAG-AFTRA contracts only. Okay, that seems like the bare minimum. I don't know why this guy's staring at me the way he is. It's creeping me out. But hey, listen, the entire point of SAG-AFTRA is that they fight for you, right? That's what a union does. Collective bargaining. And that's what they claim to do. SAG-AFTRA is on your side when it comes to contracts, representatives, safety, diversity, you name it. So were they able to step up when actors and performers faced an existential threat? Maybe, but not for everyone. Picture yourself as a university student on November 2022. You have a dissertation to present next week and ChatGPT just came out. This was revolutionary for any student. And while it was really cool to have an AI be able to write so much with such little prompts, things went from cool to concerning when Sora came out, capable of creating videos just from prompts. Immediately, there was a big concern, not just over all the things they stole to make this, but over the fact that greedy studio executives would probably see this as an opportunity to cut even more costs from.
Yeah, this is why I say like I don't really hate AI. It's not like every single time I see AI is like death to AI. It's the things that people doing with it, and also the person managed to create it in the first place. It's like it's a very neat, like the idea itself is neat, but how to achieve that idea, then like the how should you say, the process was meant to achieve this thing is not a really good way to like achieve it. They did not do a good job to like make this thing happen in a very like smooth way. It's a very bumpy way to create it. And also because like the foundation was not built in a, imagine like you want to build a hospital. Yeah, imagine you want to build a hospital and then you go and steal orphanage like building material to build that hospital. Having a hospital is good, but you took all the fun from the orphanage to actually make it. Like those kind of like style of like, if I need to make it in a very wrong analogy to actually explain it, it's almost identical to what I'm saying. You get that? And then once you build a hospital, the people who take over the hospital never have a good intention to do like provide healthcare in the first place. Then when you pay like extremely high price in order to get admitted to the hospital in the first place. Like the concept of the hospital is good. You get it? It's just the foundations that how they built the hospital in the first place, and later on people who controlling the hospital is the issues. Like, there's so many, like, long-ass Twitter argument. I can sum it in this way. I can literally sum it in this way. But so many people got, like, misunderstood on the AI stuff. The moment they see someone just use AI for fun, they will be like, death to that persons! That is become, like, a thing. It's because, like, it's a very muddy ground. Like I say again, it was never intentions to be that way, but due to how humanity societies created to a point that we can't have nice thing, we can never have nice thing. Because asshole exists.
From already terrible Hollywood movies. In 2023, that's exactly what happened. A Marvel show by the name of Secret Invasion, meant for Disney Plus, used AI for its opening credits sequence. Only AI, nothing else, just AI. It looked terrible, and that got people panicking. This was barely 1 year after ChatGPT. It clearly looked bad, but it was approved anyway. What else are studios willing to do now? This is when SAG-AFTRA and its biggest members decided to step up and fight for the average common actor's rights. In the summer of 2023, a vote was held over whether to strike or not.
I say again, it's a very good thing. Like they start from a very good ground. It's just that later on, like this is like the once it's established, like someone else, the ideology of like having a hospital got twisted, something like that.
And the majority, more than 93% of SAG-AFTRA members voted yes. So it was official, they were all ordered to strike, meaning that they couldn't work on any movies or series or even participate in any promotional material. And after 118 days of striking, they finally were able to reach a deal with the top studios in Hollywood for many different things, including compensation, residuals, and AI protections. There was only one small problem though. This enormous victory, as SAG-AFTRA called it, only applied for people working in cinema or theater, or just Hollywood in general, but had nothing to do with the profession that is most vulnerable to the rise of artificial intelligence, voice acting. When I said that SAG-AFTRA represents everyone in entertainment, I meant it. They represent everyone. They're practically a monopoly. This includes anyone doing voiceover. We're talking voice actors for games, for anime, for just about anything.
To be honest, as a Malaysians, like I live in Asia, and SAG-AFTRA stuff is like for like the US thing only, right? And if you want to become a EN like voice actor, you either go for the EU side or go for the American side. And generally, people obviously go for the American side. And for me, I don't know like how to feel about this because I have zero relationship with this kind of stuff. Even I become a voice actor in the futures, I'm still staying in Malaysia. I have zero relationship with this kind of stuff. So I'm really confusing, like looking at all these things that happen, and I'll be like, oh shit, did I try to join in like voice acting in the most wrong timing in the entire history? But yeah, like just being a voice actor is a bumpy ride. You really need a work to support yourself while being a voice actor at the same time, because you use more money than earn money as a voice actors, especially at the very beginning.
But let's not forget that video games also have actors, singers, dancers, stunt actors, motion capture artists, and a bunch of different performers under SAG-AFTRA. So technically speaking, all of these people were left behind.
Let me go front a little bit.
Or theater, or just Hollywood in general, but had nothing to do with the profession that is most vulnerable to the rise of artificial intelligence, voice acting. When I said that SAG-AFTRA represents everyone in entertainment, I meant it. They represent everyone. They're practically a monopoly. This includes anyone doing voiceover. We're talking voice actors for games, for anime, for just about anything. But let's not forget that video games also have actors, singers, dancers, stunt actors, motion capture artists, and a bunch of different performers under SAG-AFTRA. So technically speaking, all of these people were left behind during that strike in 2023. This was a very big problem because these performers were paying the same fees and dues as Hollywood actors and were in an industry that is way more likely to use AI compared to Hollywood, as evidenced by recent developments.
Yes. Yeah, entertainment industry is always very complex. So I might not in the point that know what I'm talking. And sometimes I know what I'm talking, but in reality I don't. Just letting you guys know about that part.
To Hollywood, as evidenced by recent developments. This has gotten so problematic that layoffs have been increasing while AI initiatives have been getting more and more funding. It's gotten so unbearable that game developers are getting so fed up with their boss's obsession with AI.
Yeah, this is why I kind of like hate particular part about AI thing. It's not like it's not like I hate AI. It's the people who using it that don't know jack shit about AI and think AI is like the new technologies for tomorrow. There is a neat idea of it, but it's not really solid in the first place. It's like I'm telling you, hey, do you know this like neat idea that we can use this specific calculation to build a bridges out of candy stick? And then the boss be like, oh, really? And then tomorrow they will say, we will use this calculation to reduce all costs on bridges. We will start using candy stick. And everything candy stick. I know this is an engineering thing, so it might be a little bit confusing.
Now, for a while, people didn't really take these warnings very seriously. I mean, who actually thinks that AI can replace real developers, right? Well, recently, we got a peek as to what the future could look like, and it's not looking good at all. On March 20th, 2025, Ark Survival Evolved released a trailer for an upcoming expansion. This is genuinely one of the worst things I've ever seen. Like, look at this. This is really bad. It obviously was disliked bombed. People hated it, but that's not really going to be enough of a reason for developers not to use AI. And while yes, this looks terrible and video generation still has a very long way to go before looking decent, voice-related AI tools are already worryingly very good. One quick Google search and you can find many different websites, sometimes free, able to fully clone a voice, and the only thing they need is just a short audio clip of that person talking. Some of them are so good that the AI voice doesn't sound monotone, like it won't be talking like this. It'll be able to scream, sometimes even able to whisper, and sometimes even exhibit some form of emotion, depending on how good the audio sample you give it is. Many voice actors have been feeling existential for years now. Is this it? Are they even needed anymore now that AI has gotten so good? So seeing that SAG-AFTRA so heroically stood up to the dangers of AI for its actors in cinema, it only made sense for them to do the same thing for its voice actors and motion capture artists when it came to video games, since they represented them too, right? Well, it took them a little while, but in the summer of 2024, they finally decided to go on strike for video game performers. The SAG-AFTRA president said, "We're not going to consent to a contract that allows companies to abuse AI to the detriment of our members. Enough is enough. When these companies get serious about offering an agreement our members can live and work with, we will be here ready to negotiate." This strike is happening because after 2 years of negotiation, they couldn't reach an agreement with 10 video game studios in particular. The whole point of this strike is to not work for these companies in particular, and that is it. This isn't an industry-wide strike. It only affects Activision, Blindlight, Disney Character Voices, Electronic Arts Productions, Epic Games, Formosa Interactive, Insomniac Games, Take-Two Productions, VoiceWorks Productions, and Warner Bros. Games. That's it. Under union rules, you cannot work for any of these companies, but no one is stopping you from working for any other company. SAG-AFTRA didn't really frame it that way though. They said, "We're fighting for our survival," and they made it seem like they were striking over the entire industry. This strike affects roughly 2,600 SAG-AFTRA members. And as I mentioned earlier, this wasn't just about voice acting.
Oh, by the way, if you guys didn't know actually like why Activision is in there, I think it's like the lately like Call of Duty things that happens. In my memory, it's like they use a voice that is like AI generated voice of like a certain of a few certain characters. It's like before that thing is like released, they changed the contract, like want them to re-sign the contract for the, you usually have to renew contract and stuff. So they renew the contract. They actually changed like tiny bit amount of clause there. It's like, we are going to use your voice and AI, and then if you sign this up, you gave up the royalty of using your voice in AI. Yeah, this is how everything happens. Fuck you, Activisions!
It was also about motion capture artists, stunt performers, singers, dancers, and it even prohibited people from participating in camera tests, rehearsals, auditions. It was a complete embargo on video game work for these developers. And you know what? It was really hard to find anyone opposing the strike online. It seemed like everyone was on these performers' sides. Yes, you deserve to be protected from AI. SAG-AFTRA claimed that the contract would also have better healthcare options and higher pay. Who would be opposed to that? People wanted to see them succeed. But we're in 2025 now, and after more than 200 days of striking, SAG-AFTRA says that they're nowhere near close in agreement with these affected studios, saying that the latest contracts proposed by them have alarming loopholes. SAG-AFTRA doubled down, saying that we have proposed a deal to these studios that includes wage increases of over 15% for SAG-AFTRA represented performers in video games, as well as enhanced health and safety protections and industry-leading terms of use for AI digital replicas in-game and additional compensation for the use of an actor's performance in other games. But here's the thing, if you're a gamer, there's a good chance that you had no idea that the strike was happening to begin with, so what gives? The whole point of the strike is to delay the games currently in development by the studios that are affected. So since Take-Two is involved, for example, GTA 6 is probably experiencing some delays with voice acting. But since it hasn't come out yet, you as a consumer haven't really felt the strike in any way. Unless, for whatever reason, you played Genshin Impact. You see, even though Genshin Impact's developer Hoyoverse is not part of the strike in any way and has always been a non-union project, it's never been a union project, a big part of their voice acting talent for their English dub happens to be SAG-AFTRA members, and those voice actors have decided to strike the game. Unlike the other games being striked, this one is a live service game that has updates come out periodically with voiced quests. This means that ever since the strike, many of the patches coming out have had completely mute characters when you play with the English dub, and the players have been feeling it. So that's where things get kind of weird. In their FAQ section, they have this question here. I'm a SAG-AFTRA member, but I'm tempted to take a non-union job to make ends meet, like Genshin Impact. Why is that a bad thing? I'm just trying to earn a living. To which they answer, non-union work undercuts the union's ability to negotiate the best contracts possible for you. If non-union producers can hire the best in the business for next to nothing, they have no incentive to go union. Additionally, non-union work allows producers to pay less and avoid paying residuals and retirement benefits. It also subjects you to longer unpaid work hours and potentially hazardous working conditions. And when you work off the card and run into problems, the union can't help you because the project wasn't produced under the SAG-AFTRA contract. Working off the card not only contributes to the growth of non-union work, but it puts your membership in jeopardy. Under the union's Global Rule 1, members must work under contract. Consequences for working off the card range from fines to suspension to expulsion from the union. No, yeah, not only are you confused, I am too. How is it that the majority of voice actors...
I am very confused on this thing. So, you know what, I'm just going to keep listening.
On Genshin Impact, a non-union project, are SAG-AFTRA affiliated, which directly breaks this rule, but are also striking even though the game isn't part of the strike. It makes absolutely no sense. You know what else doesn't make sense? Around 6 months before the video game strike, SAG-AFTRA signed a deal with a voiceover studio for AI use in video games. This article from Variety says, the company sells AI voices to video game developers from its library of ethically licensed voices. Last year, the company announced a new iteration of smart NPCs, non-playable characters that could use OpenAI or other language models to interact with video game players. This deal pertains only to digital replicas, using AI to recreate the voice of a real performer, living or dead. This obviously divided the hell out of voice actors in SAG-AFTRA.
Now here's the thing, like, do they get royalties? If it is, I can see the reason why they do that, actually. Because, like, if another company, like, you know how company, like, most company is, because, like, they want to cut off, like, as much money used as much as possible. But if you really have, like, what you call the quote-unquote ethically sourced things, then when they use it, they will pay, like, they require to pay, like, a certain level of, like, royalty to you. I think it's actually, it's, like, if they obligated to pay royalty to you, if they're using your AI-generated voice based on you. It's not a bad compromise. Feels bad, maybe in the long run, but it's not a bad compromise, to be honest. Because, like, they are going to proceed without, like, that in the first place. You think like most people want to, like, cut off as much money as possible, like they have morality for it, especially when they're a public company, they have to show the chart must always go up. If they are going to do it anyway, without any consent and stuff, it's best to force them to have consent, that at least pay them as much as possible. Like, I feel like you can't really stop them. Like, nowadays, like, do people manage to stop a single thing with the AI at the moment? I don't think so.
It's like, what, like, you just did a strike for actors for like over 100 days and now you're signing this and you haven't even covered video game actors yet? Weird. I think disappointment is the first word that comes to mind with both announcements. Amber Warnock Estrada, a video game journalist and aspiring voice actor, said, "We were all just like, what was the point of the strikes?" Marcus Rothenberg, a full-time voice actor, echoed the same disappointment. "The union didn't consult their members," Rothenberg said. "I know people that had never heard anything about this until the deal went through." You know what else is interesting? For Genshin Impact specifically, Hoyoverse uses a studio established in the US by the name of Side. That means that they don't hire voice actors directly, they hire a studio that gets them actors on their behalf. Side also happens to have very strict AI protections in their contract. So what are the voice actors striking against exactly against Genshin? No one.
Communication issues. This is what happens if you have lack of communications. Seriously. I might talk about lots of things that I might not know too much about. This is the classic case of lack of communications between everyone. Like, try to think this. Conflict always happen with two hands or your face. But they can't. Nothing happen if I do this. Okay? I'm not slapping you guys. I mean, like, if I'm waving my hand at empty air, people just think I'm crazy. If I do something like this, no sound happen. People will just think I'm crazy, okay? Conflict happen. Well, obviously, when sound and conflict happen is because this. Okay? Like they have one ideology in here, one ideology in here, and then and also right now with the lack of communications, the people that stuck in between it, instead of being this happened. Two sides of a cheek and a hand and another hand.
No one really knew, and no one really bothered to research. Look, this is the Genshin Impact subreddit, in which someone posted an update on the strikes. Look at the top comment. Nice. Hopefully the negotiations are swift and in actors' favor. Even though the game they were playing was practically voiceless, right? They saw the voice actors voicing some of their favorite characters go on strike for their rights against AI, and they supported them fully. If there was any frustration from the players, it was actually towards Hoyoverse. Why the hell don't they sign the contract? Why is it so hard for them to give voice actors the rights that they deserve and protection against AI? This was the attitude that most of the community was exhibiting, and everyone was mostly hoping for a peaceful resolution until people started getting fired. Zenless Zone Zero is a game made by the same developer of Genshin Impact. One of the characters in this game is Vacuo. He's really fun to play and was definitely made to appeal to the very rich furries. Ever since release, his voice actor was Nicholas Thurkettle, and the community loved him. However, in early 2025, his dialogue in new patches would end up being unvoiced. You see, the strikes against Genshin Impact weren't the only ones. Every Hoyoverse game was affected, including Zenless Zone Zero, so people assumed Nicholas was just participating in the strikes like everyone else. But on March 12th, 2025, he tweeted this out, saying, "Proxies," which is the name of the player in Zenless Zone Zero, "I'm learning about this as you are and I share your shock. Neither Hoyoverse nor Sound Cadence," which is the studio that Hoyoverse hired specifically for Zenless Zone Zero, "has communicated with me since October. I've been fully available and recorded multiple voice jobs in that time. I'm trying to learn more and absorb this news." On March 12th, 2025, Nicholas, as well as the community, found out that he was recasted. Another voice actor had effectively replaced him as Vacuo, shocking the entire community. A bit over an hour later, another voice actress by the name of Emery Chase had this to say, "Hey Proxies, I was replaced as Soldier 11, another character in Zenless Zone Zero, because I am unwilling to perform work not covered by a SAG interim agreement during a strike for AI protections, the outcome of which will determine the future of our industry. Any other theories that pop up are incorrect. I'd like to clarify that there's a difference between being struck and not being on an interim agreement. Union projects that began work prior to the strike and non-union projects are not struck, but they also do not offer the union-enforced AI rights we are fighting for. Many actors are choosing to voluntarily withhold work on these categories of projects because we feel it is the best way to support the union's fight for the protections that are critical to our continued ability to create the art we love. I knew that by withholding work, it was possible I'd be replaced, though of course I hoped they would choose to leave her silent until I was able to return. I found out the role was recast today alongside all of you. I loved working on Zenless Zone Zero and would have been thrilled to return to the project post-strike or with an interim agreement, but I stand by my choices regardless of the outcome. All my best wishes to the cast and the production team. Thank you for a great ride, Proxies." So there you have it.
Do you guys see, like, at the very beginning, I talk about, like, something I don't know about? Like, mocap stuff, this and that, yada stuff. Talk like as if I know something. See? The understanding of your own field is not a complete thing. Even you work in it, you won't really, like, understand everything in the one-to-one situations. Communication is, like the key of the things that you really need. And my example of how I talk shit about, like, lots of things in the early on, I'm not actually know what I'm talking about. And sometimes, yes, you work in a field, you might understand a certain level, but there's still so many nuances and, like, stuff that happens that you're just not aware. It's not like you are just stupid. You're just not aware. And then you might misunderstand, like, a little bit this, a little bit that, and then you talk about, like, as if you are represented that thing. It's like sometimes you might be a little bit passionate and then talk about something, and then in reality you don't know jack shit. There is a lot of situations like that, and personally I do think, like, a lot of, like, Genshin stuff that happened is actually that. Like, you guys did see, like, the very beginning of this like the conflict where it, like, confusing conflict that it just started is, like, from, like, they are not, like, the AI union thingy, this and that, but Hoyoverse is not exactly like the part that is like doing that thing. It's like the agency they contract have that thing. So if the agency decided to say like, oh, you use AI, fuck you then, and then they just stop doing anything, and then they Hollywood would also don't have any voice actor anymore because like all voice actors come from this place. You get the idea? You can't go if you want to become a voice actor. You don't go to email Hoyoverse you want to do voice acting for your future new characters. You come to this place to join in that group or maybe their service or provide ask them for opportunity to get a voice acting from here. And then they have the AI protection thing. Essentially, you can say that technically an agency entity that protects you without union. How well? I have no idea. But if anyone want to have some negotiation thing or some talk happening, they should actually talk to this place instead of Hoyoverse. Because Hoyoverse, I think they are completely rely on this place too. So if this place don't like Hoyoverse one day and just say fuck you, and they're not going to see any voice work. They have to do it on their own now. Then you guys can talk about that. But so far it's everything on the voice acting side from Hoyoverse is actually come from this place. And so far I know from hearing from Mujin saying here, they have their own thing that they are doing their own thing as a agency to find voice acting in the first place. So it's that job, and then also it's that job to take care of the people that they find to provide job to them in the first place. It's literally their job to take a cut. So if they decided to screw up all the voice actors, the place they got signed up to, screw up all the voice actor, and then they say fuck you, I'm not providing you any voice actor anymore because I'm not getting paid. If my voice actor, the voice actor I find are not getting paid, it's it's a business. They will also have the obligation to keep you there, so they can earn money. This is why they also have an obligation of jobs to help the voice actor in the first place. So it's not if people want to ask for a union stuff or any contract stuff, things like that, just anything that at least treat voice actor as humane as possible instead of just using them as a tool. Agency also does that kind of shit too. Sometimes even without union stuff. Because it's similar with how union work. They are technically a agency to negotiate price for you. Agency also does those kinds of shit. And they imagine this thing. Union have much more incentive of protecting you because they want nowadays how lots of a union functions is they protecting you because this is a art interest that they want people to have passion on this kind of thing, not getting screwed over. Agency is having the same ideal but with a different thinking pattern. I need to protect them, protect the people I hired to work for those people, but I got hired to find people to work for them. I need to protect them, the people I find, because I'm taking a cut from them. If they got screwed over and don't want my agency to find other people anymore, I got screwed. I don't have any money anymore. I don't get any commission fee. Not commission fee, also the commission fee from help you the voice actor earning will have a piece of percentage is going for the agency. So the agency do have the obligation to help the voice actor too. So essentially, agency also can function somewhat more or less like a union too. They do help you do negotiation. At least try your best to keep you working so he can earn money from you. It become that job. It's basically union is much more passion transactions, and agency is much more business transactions. When it comes to relationship, become between you get a job from agency and you get a job from union, or you work a job within the union areas. For me in Malaysia, I would see agency more than union. To be honest, this is why there's so many event agency company exist, because it's their job to find part-timers or any other things that they required. It's I need some chauffeur, I need a little bit this, a little bit that, I need woodwork for this particular stage to be made, I need this like metalwork or like sound system. I will hire this agency to find a sound system, a sound engineer to help me do this event. If you hired me to do a to find a sound agency to do the event, obviously I'm going to take a commissions for you to find to hire me to find first place. Also at the same time, I also take a commission, the slight commission percentage from providing the sound audio engineer to work over there, give them an opportunity to work over there in the first place. And with that, I earn money. But if my sound engineer got screwed over by that company, guess what? It's like, again, like it's either side. Either the sound engineer screw over that company, or the company screw over that sound engineer. Like, I'm going to lose either way. I'm going to lose one of the buck of like something. Depends on who is actually wrong here. Like, the agency also have the obligation to either protect their client or protect the people they hired. Like, it's a very complex like understanding on the business part. I'm mentioning this in a very business way, not like passion art way, you know? And sometimes I do feel weird when I say like I want to become a voice actor because of money stuff, and because of my disability, I want to like try to earn a buck, earn a living as a voice actor. But every single time I talk about that, people would just reply me, "Oh, I do it for passions." You can't eat passions, you know. Like you can have passion in your work, but also you do need to find a point on life that you need to lift with what you're passionate with. It's like you need to see the business side. You can't blind yourself to see the business side of things. While it's a very harsh truth, but you can't blind yourself from seeing the business side because of your passions. You can have passions and have the understanding how the business works in the first place. That way, you won't get screwed. You can't just like handle all the responsibility to like a group entity that represents you, you know? Like union is good doesn't mean that you need to like completely rely on them. It's nowadays, like back in the days, maybe. Nowadays you like individual power does have a lot more power. Especially when nowadays like people are much more connected to the internet now. Even you got screwed over, you can just say something, everyone would know. Everyone would understand. It's way more different age now. And I do say like agency do protect you in a certain degree. Because it's business related. It's their business to find you. People hire them to find you to work. And it either way, like either their clients screw the people they find, it's like a reputation's got damaged, or the people they find like screw over the client, and then like if I am the agency, I like either way my reputation got damaged. So in a way that I need to find a way to actually like protect either the client or the people I find in the first place. It's like being like an in-between person, have their own personal jobs to have to like take care after too. So this is why there's still so many jobs, especially outside of US, there's like no union work, is because they technically work over agency. The agency more or less functioning like a union, especially big agency. It's their reputations that is like the most important things. Either one of them, like both sides got either screwed, either one of them, the reputations that going to be damaged is going to be the agency. I might be wrong. I might be talking so much shit to a point that I might be wrong. Here's the grain of salt that you guys have to put it in there. I'm not a full-on expert, but I do understand by principle of being an agent, you have to have like a certain reputations to become an agent in the first place. The middleman. If your middleman always have issues either with the client or the people you find, would you try to find them for jobs in the first place? No. Like, let's continue on this particular part of the side again, okay?
By the name of Side. That means that they don't hire voice actors directly, they hire a studio that gets them actors on their behalf.
Yeah, Hoyoverse hired Side to find people for them, to provide voice actor for them that way. This is why when you try to become a voice actor, if you want to do Hoyo stuff, you either you join a studio that have the list of your voice, and then when side like go scour different studio for like voice file, and then they found your voice file, and then negotiate with that particular studio to like asking you to provide that voice, that give the opportunity to provide a voice, or you apply for side, and then the side can actually listen to you, and then they'll be like, oh yeah, I have this job that you might be interesting of, like those kind of things, and then like they'll provide you the job, those kind of stuff. You can either find the job on your own way, like a freelancer, or you can try to apply for side or those kind of things. That is how you manage to get in Hoyoverse in the first place. You can't just go into unless your father is the freaking CEO of Hoyoverse. Even that is like the chance is going to be pretty weak if you're not that good at voice acting. You know, you can't actually just straight up apply to be a voice actor in Hoyoverse. Okay.
Side also happens to have very strict AI protections in their contract. So what are the voice actors striking exactly against Genshin? No one really knew, and no one really bothered to research. Look, this is the Genshin Impact subreddit.
Yeah, this is why I say this is what happened when you're living in a very like one side of the bubble, you don't see the other side of the bubble. I feel like a lot of people that do voice acting has been so integrated into union stuff, they forgot agency is a thing. There are people like that. And some people might aware about that, but they don't know the existence of such entity exists. Like they slightly aware this kind of thing happened, but they don't know like how big it is. It's like I understand how mocap stuff happens, but I don't know how big or detailed it is. The potential of getting screwed like by AI is there, but I don't know how it will affect by the AI stuff. Something like that. I can talk a lot of shit about those kind of things, and then I might be in a way that I have no idea the other side of the bubble is. Because I'm contained in this like small idea bubble in there, I have like I might talk about the things that I think or feel is right, but I might not know the outside world. You know, like it's like frog under the well. I understand the entire integrity of being a frog in a well, but I don't know how the integrity of frog outside the pond.
In which someone posted an update on the strikes. Look at the top comment. Nice. Hopefully the negotiations are swift and in actors' favor. Even though the game they were playing was practically voiceless, right? They saw the voice actors voicing some of their favorite characters go on strike for their rights against AI, and they supported them fully. If there was any frustration from the players, it was actually towards Hoyoverse. Why the hell don't they sign the contract? Why is it so hard for them to give voice actors the rights that they deserve and protection against AI? This was the attitude that most of the community was exhibiting.
Okay, let me read the title a little bit, okay? A question. Let's flex my voice acting skill a bit, okay? Questions I'm not seeing people ask about the ongoing strike. Why hasn't Hoyoverse officially addressed these issues to their player yet? There's a tons of speculations of why Hoyoverse has yet to sign the SAG-AFTRA interim agreement. However, unless I'm mistaken and someone can provide credible proof from the company itself, Hoyoverse hasn't made a single official announcement stating the reasons why their mobile game has been missing previously cast like English voice actors, nor their reasons to why they haven't signed the agreement. Yes, they repeatedly added the statement of due to recording arrangement to their voice to their video ever since the interactive game strike started. But this doesn't directly answer anything, while it seems obvious that it's because of the strike based on timing. That doesn't mean Hoyoverse should avoid being like transparent with their players. Instead of asking why voice actors seemingly refusing to work for months, how about asking why Hoyoverse hasn't directly stated anything for months? If what some people are guessing is the reasons, that is still an ongoing issue. So why hasn't Hoyoverse already made this statement clear? Sound Cadence Studio made this statement a few weeks ago when people are vocal about the separate recast in Xenosaga Zero. Why not ask for HoYoverse to do the same, blah, 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 yeah, that stuff. Like, again, like, because people don't know that this place is actually handling everything on the voice acting side, HoYoverse almost have zero relationship on the voice acting part. And nobody actually know that. Because this is like a business practice, maybe outside of like on the Western side, that it might surprise people, I guess. Like, here's the thing, like, if this thing is in the clip that I will be clipping out, do you guys understand how agency work? Or do you guys understand do you guys have anything in like the US side have like agency to find a voice actors on behalf of this company, and then I'll be the middleman to mediate in between you guys to negotiate like pricing, this and that other stuff, make it fair. It sounds like union, right? Agency is kind of like working like that functions, but in the same time, they are kind of more closely functioning as like a business entity instead of like union in the grand scheme of helping the voice actors. The agency, if like is the agency is to find voice actors, their grand scheme of the thing is to keep both sides happy so they can earn money from both sides. Still, at the end, they will try their best to protect you, and they also try their best to protect their client. Hi there, welcome back, Savage. Currently I will be talking a little bit of like some of the complex stuff, like nuanced things. It's really, really difficult to see this like things like happen. It's a very confusing thing. Like even the voice actor themselves are confused. This is why the drama happened in the first place. Because like I'm not really sure. This is why I'm really confused. Like, do voice actor on the Western side aware of how agency works? Because I feel like they don't. As like maybe like people that didn't say jack shit, they know, and people has been crashing out, they actually not aware. This is why it's happening. And some people literally got fired out of nowhere. They have no idea what happened. And then they realize that, oh, it's my coworker doing some shit now and got fired for no reason. This is like very complex situations. Very complex situations. Again, like agency is trying their best to like not just protecting you as a voice actors, and then they also have to protect their client that who hired them in the first place. So if like I hired a bunch of people, now like 60% of the people within that group is trying to fuck over my client. Obviously, I fired those kind of people, right? My reputation is literally like my reputation is literally like on the line if I am an agency that people hire me to hire people. Like I need like to build a wooden stage. Okay? If I need to build a wooden stage for people to dance on. Not I. Like a company want to like start up an event and then want to find like a bunch of people, reliable people to build a wooden stage for people to dance on, and then they come and hire me because I know people. I can go. My job is to find people that who have the capability and the discipline and the skill to build a wooden stage for people to dance on, and then I hired a bunch of nobodies. And then they are terrible at that job. Aside from that, they keep catcalling anyone while working in there. Like, am I going to like fire those kind of people? Because when they see like how the people I hired like act over like my client side, and then my client look back at me, like I'm going to sweat a lot, you know. Like there's a reputation between like agency too. Like if you are good at hiring like a people that have no issues and do their job correctly, yeah, like my agency have like a very good things too. But if I don't, like people just look at me, my reputation is going to like crumble. And this kind of like thinking is also other side of thinking too. People come to me and put their name in like my contact list is because they trust me to find a good client for them that don't screw them over the job. You know, it's like if I keep handling like a bunch of woodworking professional that have like very good discipline and good code of conduct and stuff, and quoting like good price to the client, I pass it to them, and the client keeps screwing them over by not providing them enough support or money and stuff, they will look at me. If I ask those woodworker to like do a next job, they will be worrying, are the client going to screw them over? Like, it's a very big juggle in between that you have. Like, if there is like a good agency exists, means like they are very well at juggling these two things. They know how to protect the client, they know how to protect like the people they hired, they find. So this is why I say like agency exists in a way that kind of function like union already. It's not saying like union is not supposed to be a thing, but if union functioning like an agency in the US side, yeah, they should keep working like that. But if you working on like on outside US work, and then instead of like using union, they use agency, you guys should understand like that part of the cultures too. Who knows how many people I'm yapping to. I'm just going to clip this like in the futures too, so more people can like see this.
Against Genshin, no one really knew, and no one really bothered to research. Look, this is the Genshin Impact subreddit, in which someone posted an update on the strikes. Look at the top comment. Nice. Hopefully the negotiations are swift and in actors' favor. Even though the game they were playing was practically voiceless, right? They saw the voice actors voicing some of their favorite characters go on strike for their rights against AI, and they supported them fully. If there was any frustration from the players, it was actually towards Hoyoverse. Why the hell don't they sign the contract? Why is it so hard for them to give voice actors the rights that they deserve and protection against AI? This was the attitude that most of the community was exhibiting, and everyone was mostly hoping for a peaceful resolution until people started getting fired. Zenless Zone Zero is a game made by the same developer of Genshin Impact. One of the characters in this game is Vacuo. He's really fun to play and was definitely made to appeal to the very rich furries. Ever since release, his voice...
Speaking about rich furry, I don't know why people who like furry is like super duper rich.
Voice actor was Nicholas Thurkettle, and the community loved him. However, in early 2025, his dialogue in new patches would end up being unvoiced. You see, the strikes against Genshin Impact weren't the only ones. Every Hoyoverse game was affected, including Zenless Zone Zero. So people...
Yeah, for me, I think this guy got fired by just standing there. He literally did nothing. He's not like... I don't think he like support like the actually like... You know, I don't think he support the SAG-AFTRA stuff. It's like maybe he understand like the agency stuff, so he didn't do anything while people is like talking shit about like Hoyoverse, and then he just suddenly like, hey, why I didn't get any work these days? And then you got fired. Wait, what? Why? Oh, your coworker is like acting up. My coworker? Who? People from SAG. People from SAG.
People assumed Nicholas was just participating in the strikes like everyone else. But on March 12th, 2025, he tweeted this out, saying, "Proxies," which is the name of the player in Zenless Zone Zero, "I'm learning about this as you are, and I share your shock. Neither Hoyoverse nor Sound Cadence," which is the studio that Hoyoverse hired specifically for Zenless Zone Zero, "has communicated with me since October. I've been fully available and recorded multiple voice jobs in that time. I'm trying to learn more and absorb this news." On March 12th, 2025, Nicholas, as well as the community, found out that he was recasted. Another voice actor had effectively replaced him as Vacuo, shocking the entire community. A bit over an hour later, another voice actress by the name of Emery Chase had this to say, "Hey Proxies."
Yeah, this is like the world's most confusing domino effect that's just happening. It's like people that got fired have no idea what happened, and then people that have idea happened just make things like worst.
I was replaced as Soldier 11, another
But
character in
don't.
Zenless Zone Zero, because I am unwilling to perform work not covered by a SAG interim agreement during a strike for AI protections, the outcome of which will determine the future of our industry. Any other theories that pop up are incorrect. I'd like to clarify that there's a difference between being struck and not being on an interim agreement. Union projects
The video I'm trying to look. This one.
that began work prior to the strike and non-union projects are not struck, but they also do not offer the union-enforced AI rights we are fighting for. Many actors are choosing to voluntarily withhold work on these categories of projects because we feel it is the best way to support the union's fight for the protections that are critical to our continued ability to create the art we love. I knew that by withholding work, it was possible I'd be replaced, though of course I hoped they would choose to leave her silent until I was able to return. I found out the role was recast today alongside all of you. I loved working on Zenless Zone Zero and would have been thrilled to return to the project post-strike or with an interim agreement, but I stand by my choices regardless of the outcome. All my best wishes to the cast and the production team. Thank you for a great ride, Proxies. So there you have it. Even though Hoyoverse is not part of the official SAG-AFTRA strike, Emery, as well as many other actors who are SAG-AFTRA and working for Hoyoverse, decided to strike independently from their union in solidarity with the
Yeah, like I say again, if you represent for an entity to say, if you say something that represents an entity, remember who are tagged along with you by accident. You can drag a lot of people down. You can think like, oh, yeah, it's going to affect only me, but there's a chance that's going to affect everyone. Have to always pay attention to the environment when you try to fight for something, okay?
actual strike. This was all in an effort to make Hoyoverse sign the agreement, even though they technically weren't part of the actual strike. Nicholas Thurkettle quote tweeted Emery's tweet and said, "This is what I've been quiet about. I'm not SAG, but what game companies want to do with AI is an existential threat. I took a personal stand to ask for protection and had to be willing to give up the best thing that's ever happened in my professional life. I stand by my choice." But this kind of didn't really make sense in regards to his first tweet. Someone replied with, "So you were aware that they did reach out to you regarding returning to the role and you turned it down knowing you could potentially be recasted for this choice, and then went off to Twitter to say they never reached out to you since October?" Things weren't really making much sense, but at the same time, people were still on the...
Wait, what I missed? What I missed? Okay, this is what I've been paid. This is what I've been quiet about. I'm not SAG, but what game company want to do with AI is an existential threat, so I took a personal stand for ask for protections and willing to give up the best thing that ever happened. Well, then it didn't. Or okay, I had a little bit defense for him, but now I don't have any defense for him. It's like you're suddenly yelling at a wall for some reasons now.
Personal stand to ask for protection and had to be willing to give up the best thing that's ever happened in my professional life. I stand by my choice.
It's not like they fired you for nothing, but the first post you sound like you've been fired for nothing. Like you caught stray for no reasons. And now that's like a reason you caught the stray. By standing right in front of the bullets.
But this kind of didn't really make sense in regards to his first tweet. Someone replied with, "So you were aware that they did reach out to you regarding returning to the role and you turned it down knowing you could potentially be recasted for this choice, and then went off to Twitter to say they never reached out to you since October?" Things weren't really making much sense, but at the same time, people were still on the voice actor's side. I mean, they were claiming that they were fighting for their own existence, that if they don't do this, AI will replace them fully. So they were excused.
I'm confused. If Hollywood always have any decisions that want to use AI, if you manage to talk to the agency that Hollywood has hired, if they do anything about AI, can you say fuck them? They should just negotiate with the agency then, not Holyoverse. Because if like the agency decided to say point a middle finger at them, they can just leave. Like the main source of like voice actor for like Holyoverse is from that particular like agency company. Maybe there's some third party source coming from that particular agency. still, again, if you guys really need to like negotiate stuff, I think it's like negotiate with the agency is much more appropriate, right? Now I'm not sure if the agency is the part that having issues with the people that having like this kind of like meltdown, or Hoyoverse is the one that having issues with this kind of meltdown. Like, this is the very confusing situations. It's more like the people got like a little bit lash out. Like right now, they don't really understand how the business on outside of US work. And then they assume it's like that. And then blind justification added into it. And further confusion happens. And shit happens.
Used for the sake of the bigger picture. These tweets made the actual studio, Soundcaddens, have to make some sort of a statement because a lot of theories were running rampant. This is what they had to say. From top to bottom, Soundcaddens Studios is a community of artists. As concerns have been raised regarding how we work with our voice actors, we wanted to take this opportunity to clarify where we stand and how we operate. Every contract at our studio features explicit AI protections regardless of union status. Much of our staff are actors themselves and could not in good conscience offer other performers work we would not be willing to take. The decision to recast talent on any project is not made lightly. While sometimes our hands are tied as to what we can communicate and when, we understand how personally actors take their roles, and always want to ensure that no one is ever blindsided. Our studio has and will continue to honor legacy casting on all projects we've inherited whenever possible, and always reach out to actors to reprise their roles before investigating any other options. We respect the decisions of all actors in navigating the ongoing strike and fully support SAG-AFTRA and its AI negotiations. The passion of fan communities for video game characters and the people who bring them to life is further evidence that real human actors matter, and we will continue to bring voices to our clients' projects in the most human way possible. Look, things became even more confusing with this statement because they said, we'll always reach out to actors to reprise their roles before investigating any other options. But Nicholas claimed that he wasn't contacted for over 4 months. Additionally, Emery claims that she was doing this for AI protections, but they're already present in the Soundcaddens contract. She then specified that she only wants to work on a project that has an interim agreement, so a SAG-AFTRA contract. But she was working on this game before the strike, which meant that she was a union member working a non-union project, which is against SAG-AFTRA's policies. Does a single thing here make sense? No. But again, it didn't matter. People were still siding with the voice actors because this was the voice actor fighting against evil corporations.
Yeah, like normal people that don't jack shit about it. Really confusing at this point. They just see and believe what they believe. You know, like mob mentality stuff. But still, it's like, if you really don't know the detail, and once you know, it becomes like even more confusing actually. It's weird.
And AI. They were always given the benefit of the doubt, until one day, all of the goodwill they had from all the community would come crashing down on their faces. Kinich is a Genshin Impact character available in its newest region. At some point, much like many other characters in Genshin Impact, his English dub would go silent, and people had correctly assumed that much like all the other actors, his actor was also on a SAG-AFTRA strike. But then, that voice actor, John Patnode, posted this statement on March 26, 2025, saying, "Hey everyone, if you've been playing the latest 5.5 update in Genshin Impact and are hearing Kinich speak for the first time in 6 months, it's not my voice, I've been recast. I've been withholding voiceover services during the SAG-AFTRA interactive strike because Hoyoverse wouldn't offer AI protections in the form of a SAG interim agreement. They'd kept my character's dialogue silent for months, all the while I had made the difficult decision to continue not going in until an interim agreement was signed, and this was ultimately why I was recast. Now obviously, a recast is not what I wanted. I'd hoped that any progress behind the scenes would be made and I would come back safely, or that if recast auditions went out, my colleagues wouldn't read for them. Unfortunately, I was wrong. I absolutely adored playing Kinich. Genshin was my comfort game during the early parts of the pandemic, and it was a dream of mine to book a playable character. At the time, I didn't have an agent, didn't live in LA, or had any connections that would get me close, but 4 years later, I did it, and the messages I've received from you all saying how much my performance as Kinich meant to you made my heart swell. I would and can return if Hoyo invites me back and signs an interim. I stand by my choices regardless of the outcome. Also, the strike is still ongoing. Please don't believe this information on the internet. My best wishes to the cast and the production team. Thank you for everything, JP." This came as an absolute shock to the entire community, because here there wasn't some weird conflicting story. This was John saying, "Hey guys, I'm striking and I was directly recast because of that strike." Genshin is also a bigger game than Zenless Zone Zero, so of course the stakes were higher. I also want to point out that getting an English dub role in Genshin Genshin Impact is actually a huge deal. Due to the massive popularity that this game gained during the pandemic, they were one of the main beneficiaries of its popularity. This allowed them to grow their social media followings substantially, allowing them to land more roles. It was a major stepping stone in the industry. So getting a role here, as well as losing it, is a very big deal. But typically, when someone gets recasted in a controversial way, like with what happened with Emery, the replacement keeps it secret, at least for a while. This time though, it wasn't silent at all, and it created total chaos. On the same day, the voice actor Jacob Takanashi would post this on Twitter, saying, "Role announcement. I'm honored to join the English cast of Genshin Impact as the voice of Kinich. Taking up the mantle of Malipo is a privilege, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to carry the flame from the previous flame bearer, John, who did an incredible job. Those are big shoes to fill, and I promise to give it my all out of respect for him, for Hoyoverse, and for you, the fans. Thank you to Diana for their amazing direction and for helping me navigate the intricacies of this incredible game, and to Side Tokyo and Hoyoverse for the honor of bringing Kinich to life. I'm deeply grateful for the privilege of entertaining you all." Now, yeah, you're probably expecting the Genshin community to be divided on this, with some people completely shitting on Jacob and others supporting him. What no one was expecting, though, is that the voice actors themselves would join in on this shit show and publicly attack Jacob for taking on this role. There was only one voice actor with something positive to say. That was Nathan Noakes, saying, "Welcome to the team, Jacob." Every other voice actor in these replies had something negative to say about this. Here are some comments from many voice actors, not just for Genshin Impact. Like, "There are many reasons why roles get recast. I personally draw the line with the original actors holding out because they are fighting for better work conditions. I have refused many auditions to take over roles from my peers because I'd never do that to another fellow actor." This was
Okay. Personal understanding? So far, everything I'm seeing right now, they're shadowboxing. They're shadowboxing at a non-existing opponent, and people wondering what the heck they're doing. And then they ask you like, aren't you, why aren't you start working? Yeah, because I'm fighting this thing. You're fighting nothing. Yeah, I'm fighting this thing. It's like for the voice actors. Like maybe, like I say again, like they start with like a very good intentions. Even is right now, even still like they are doing it in their good intentions to do it. But to be honest, they really are shadowboxing in this moment. Not even shadowboxing. Like I say, they're punching air. They're fighting air at the moment. It's like worst case scenario, you're punching the wrong persons. You get the idea, right? Like even the intention is good. You punch a wrong person is still punching wrong persons. This is a very complicated case, to be honest, but lack of communication, yes. Still, again, this is like super lack of communications. Like, how does thing happen? Like, everyone just like living in their own bubble at this point. Like, how did it happen?
Jacob being publicly called out by a very well-renowned English dub voice actress, but she was far from being the only one. Kaylee Mills, the voice actress behind Keqing in Genshin Impact, someone who greatly benefited from the explosion in popularity the game went through during the pandemic, had this to say: "This is actually kinda diabolical. If you need the money, at least take the role uncredited. This just comes off as an easy grab for clout. It's not a good look." This is another Genshin voice actor replying with 3 thumbs down, and then you had the voice actor behind one of the most recognizable characters in the entirety of Genshin Impact, Paimon, who's literally the mascot of the game, say this wasn't a passing of the torch. And even going as far to say that there is a huge difference when you take the role of an actor who is striking for AI protections. "You are no castmate of mine." Now, these voice actors making these aggressive public statements probably thought that they were on top of the world, convinced that not only are they on the right side of history, but because they're on the right side of history, everything they say will be taken positively by the community. And you know what? Maybe in another world, it would have been.
Here's, like I say again, they're shadowboxing for the right thing, but they punch the wrong persons. Imagine this thing. I'm trying to punch. You know what? I shouldn't say that word. I tried to punch a PDF. Okay, I'm trying to punch a PDF, and then I accidentally punch an old man. The intention of I'm trying to punch a PDF, people just arguing I did nothing wrong because my intention was to punch a PDF. You know? It's like, but I punch an old man. People are shitting me on punching the old man, obviously. I got the consequence. No. I should say that I got the consequences of punching an old man, mistakenly punching an old man instead of punching like a PDF over there. And then I got into court. A lot of people defending me. My intention is good. But still, the fact that I accidentally shadowboxing and punch an old man is there, you know? It was a misguided punch with a good intentions. But it's still a misguided punch. Get the idea. The entire situations is that.
In the case. It just so happens, though, that they're using a platform that has something called community notes, and that's exactly what happened to Corinna, inadvertently triggering one of the biggest reputational catastrophes you could ever imagine. Here's what the community note said. It should be noted that despite bullying another voice actor while using SAG-AFTRA as an excuse, Corinna themselves isn't on strike, even though they're American-based and the voice actor they're harassing isn't. Whoa. That's a lot to take in. People started taking a step back and thinking, wait, that's actually true. The strike has been ongoing for 8 months, and yet every single patch that comes out, Paimon is probably the only character that's still voiced. Corinna was starting to deal with an ever-growing backlash, but that didn't discourage other voice actors from tweeting passive-aggressive tweets towards Jacob. This would contribute to negatively impacting public perception even further. Here are some examples. This voice actor said, I normally try to be pretty professional on here, but if you don't like me speaking out against actors scabbing and taking striking actors' roles, kindly fuck off. I'm not going to be silenced just because you don't care about us getting ripped off and abused by.
Okay. Again, I missed my brain like loading around this like very confusing situations. I normally try to be pretty professional on here, but if you don't like me speaking out against like actor scabbing and taking strike actor roles, kind of fuck off. I am not going to be silenced if it's just because you don't care about us and ripping off and abuse by this company. Well, for first thing, they tried to shadowboxing the wrong thing and got burned and got replaced. Yes, definitely that there's some like, again, there's no clap with one hand. Definitely something's happening there. But still, I do think fighting, suddenly start fighting an innocent bystander is not like a good thing, you know?
These companies. A scab is a union term that Jacob was called multiple times by other voice actors. It means someone who doesn't strike and continues to work. The voice actress of Sucrose from Genshin, as well as Venture from Overwatch, had this to say. It's insane how entitled the gacha fanbase is, holy shit, keeping the characters hostage from us and hurting our experience. What? We're fighting for workers' rights. That's what a strike is all about. If this was the 1940s and we were striking, it would be based or some shit. I have no interest in arguing with people who'd rather see integrity replaced by scabs or AI. That's not what video games are all about. It's an art form comprised of so many beautiful artists doing their best, not about the money or fame or AI. I'm grateful that the projects I'm still working on offer humane protections and livable wages, and fan bases that aren't insane and appreciate real integral voices.
Yeah, this is like the forking point. I'm not actually cursing in like using other word to curse. This is actually a forking point of like the direction of like the things that happens, and then people keep arguing to the point that it just went off the rail. This is what happened. Man, this is what power of social media is.
Also, I know this isn't all gacha fans, but the replies to some of my fellows are horrendous. Some people pointed out that Jacob wasn't even in the US, he was based in Japan, saying, you guys outright attacked a voice actor for being a scab when he's Japan-based and the strike and union don't even exist there. If you didn't know, SAG-AFTRA is American. If you're based outside the US, you can't join SAG-AFTRA. Here's what Valeria had to say. What's disgusting is y'all writing this hard for a scab. He's an English voice actor. He can still scab even if he's based in a different country. I don't know if anyone told you, but audio transcends borders. He knowingly took work from someone.
Yeah, audio transcend border. This is why agency exists. Like I say again, union is not exactly a outside country thing. It is a very American-based thing, or like a very like, you know, Western side thing. It's not even all Western have that kind of shit. And is very, again, it's a very what you would call bubble things that happen like over there. And then obviously something functioning similarly exists, and that is called agency. And it's very difficult to let people understand the point, maybe, if you work in a very close bubble. I think they need like a communication class about union versus agency. This is like one of the most important thing I think like in the conversations they really need, is because yes, union and agency both working in a very different spectrum, but the target of what they are trying to help the voice actor under their umbrella and the client they are facing is somewhat parallel. The direction is a little bit different. One is to protect the integrity and not getting screwed over by people who is like trying to do voice acting for the union side, and for the agency side, they are just want to protect their reputation so they can earn money from both sides. If either way is not going to work for agency are the one that losing money. So it's their obligations to protect the things that under the umbrella, also protect the client against the thing under the umbrella. So in a way, they function like a union. But union is much more like as an entity that represent as like one entity and protecting them. As for agency, they functioning as a business to protect both sides. Obviously, there will be like a very difficult balance when it comes to that, but it is a business they created to help both sides. And maybe this kind of practice is not a thing in US? Is it? Can anyone tell me about this? I don't really understand this at this point.
Someone else. The voice actors for Hutao from Genshin Impact, as well as some other big roles in anime, quote tweeted John's statement and said, "Thank you for standing strong and holding the line with us, you're a real one," and then replied with, "Clear's throat, some of us shaking my f***ing head," referring to Jacob. This voice actor tweeted, "Say, are you Japanese or Japanese American, able to portray a 20s male character, can sing, have an excellent home studio? I've got a couple of colleagues in mind, but I would like to know more voice actors, except that one guy. Please DM me your website. Thank you." Of course, he was referring to Jacob. The voice actor for either the male main character of Genshin Impact had this to say. Wow, on the day this happened. Now here's where the crisis really deepens for all these voice actors that made these public statements. Nathan Noakes, the only voice actor that was nice to Jacob when he announced his new role, said, "Right, I spoke to the new voice actor who lives and works in Japan, and he didn't even know what was going on. He came into an onslaught of criticism and didn't know anything about the strike or SAG, since SAG isn't in Japan. Blows my mind." At that point, it was very hard to side with these voice actors that were dogpiling Jacob. The guy had no idea, and instead of reaching out to him, private messaging him, talking to him.
And here's the thing, I somewhat low-key know writers like writer stuff from SAG. I don't really know like voice actor stuff from SAG until all this thing blow up too. I know union work is a thing, exists, but I don't know actually involve SAGs and stuff. Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing.
And
this is why like sometimes I try to do any like voice acting job, I got really confused on like the union non-union thing. Like they keep saying, oh, this is like standard rate and then this is union rate for some reasons. That's like complete separate thing. So being a freelancer, like not in US, trying to do like English voice acting is really confusing.
On one personally, they chose to make a vicious example of him in public. As this was all going on, Corinna was too busy fighting a battle all alone, trying to prove to everyone that even though voicing a character like Paimon during a strike is scabbing, it's justified, but not for Jacob, only for Corinna. This was
like again, shadowboxing. Why there's so many people shadowboxing?
was Corinna's response to a fan pointing out the hypocrisy. "No, you're right. I'm technically scabbing. I originally have this role and technically I can still work this role. I am a disabled person and this is the job that puts food on my table as I actually record this role year round. But I didn't take this role from another person who is striking. I had this role and I am stuck in it because I have no other way to pay for my medical bills. But yes, technically I am a scab and you're..."
Same. But Here's the thing: if nobody knows, actually, I'm disabled in some sense, but I still have to work. This is why I gave up streaming. Right now, I'm streaming. I know it's very confusing. I'm basically at the degradation of my health that due to the things that happens to me, I burn out my body way faster. So I'm basically trying to stream in a burnout body. So I'm trying my best, but sometimes I might not be able to stream sometimes due to, my energy reserve is like completely burnout. But yeah, I will try my best in the futures and also try to become a voice actor, also trying to become an artist. Also try to become a streamer. Man, I need to give up something. Maybe art. Art is not earning me anything at the moment, so yeah. So does voice actor, but those things like slowly build up. I'll try my best. Okay?
You're right. I don't deserve any praise right now. I don't deserve any of it. I deserve to be told off just like this actor, so please do. No one should look up to me. I'm trapped and a coward because I continue this job because if not, I end up homeless. I don't say that because I deserve sympathy. I don't. The ones sticking to the picket line deserve all of the praise, not me. I love voicing Paimon. Love it. I have been through so much that you guys will never truly understand, but I also know what I am and I should not be given any applause for this. If I could feasibly stick the line with my fellow actors, I would. This job actually barely keeps me alive. But that doesn't mean that it makes it different. It is not a good thing to my fellow actor that I continue to work on this game. I have struggled with that since the strike started, so call me out for this. Please, I deserve it. If it means we get closer to making things better, then so be it. So Karina was arguing that the reason why Paimon is still voiced in Genshin during a strike is that so they don't end up homeless? Isn't that why everyone works a job to begin with? I mean, isn't that...
Yep.
I'm sorry, how does you being disabled have anything to do with this? Someone point...
Yeah. Well, this is like out of context, but again, I'm trying to make a living as a voice actor, but I can't at the end. So anyone who can make a living as a voice actor is a privilege,
pointed out, so what? Many disabled people work remotely in other professions. Voice acting is not your only option if it puts you in such an unethical position. But you have to seek attention on twitter.com like a 16-year-old and present yourself like a saint of the whole community. To which Karina replies with, I definitely don't present myself as a saint, but you don't know my disability and what I am able to do. This person said, I'm very convinced that you keep voicing Paimon because while people are unhappy that characters they love are unvoiced, like 90% of the player base would actually fucking cheer if Paimon was fucking silent. That's so true. Look, if you haven't played Genshin, you have to understand. Paimon works as the mouthpiece of the main character. If she's not voiced, the game would actually be hurt beyond recognition. And to recast Karina would be a nightmare because there are hundreds of thousands of lines to re-record from the beginning of the game until now. If anyone is gonna convince Hoyoverse to sign this agreement, it would be Karina striking. But there you are, the most important role is still being voiced during a strike. How can you take any of this seriously? This is like when players tried to boycott Genshin by continuing to play the game every single day. Like, come on, dude. To be fair, Karina did receive backup from Keqing's voice actor, Kaylee Mills. Unfortunately, though, this only ended up making them look worse because Kaylee was literally pocket watching Jacob's finances, saying, this is one small job for him, not his full-time work. It's Karina's bread and butter. He's done very little voiceover work, so it isn't what he's relying on to pay the bills. For all we know, his wife's the breadwinner. Either way, they bought a house recently, so I doubt it was a necessary job for survival. I think it's safe to say that I'm not the only one who gets a bad taste in their mouth when they read something like this, right? Not to mention that Kaylee very conveniently didn't...
I do want a wife that can take care of me too. Look, I'm very cute. If you need a guy that they keep talking shit and sit there and listen to you, I mean...
mentioned that Jacob has children. He has a family to take care of. So how is it any different from her friend Karina, who'd be homeless if it wasn't for Paimon's voice acting work? The fact that he bought a house? There's something called a mortgage. And regardless, delving into someone's personal finances like this is unprofessional in any industry, period. They were trying their hardest to paint Jacob as the supervillain. Some fans joined in on this too, failing miserably. Here's someone siding with the voice actors trying to paint Jacob as a liar that knew about the strikes even though he said that he didn't, showing a tweet he had made in 2023 saying that if companies used AI for a commercial, then he's just going to assume that the product is subpar. That's because he believes that if they can't afford to pay for real authentic voice actors, then they also can't pay for quality assurance, research and development, and supply chains. This was community noted, and the message is, SAG-AFTRA video game strike didn't start until July of 2024, so unless he can time travel, it's impossible for him to have been talking about the SAG-AFTRA strike way before it even happened. Also, generally being against AI usage is not conducive to being proof of being aware that SAG-AFTRA is on on strike. As time went on, Jacob
Like I say again, like, it's not because of union people don't like AI. It's scummy practice people don't like. And the scummy practice explain the integrity of the company. You get that idea? And what this is not fighting AI or like pointing the middle finger at AI. It's pointing at business practice. It's a different thing.
was being loved more and more by the community, while the other voice actors that stood against him were being gradually hated. And that's when they would try to play the victims.
This is what happened when you're shadowboxing.
The voice actors for Hu Tao from Genshin tweeted this out a couple days later, saying the harassment and bullying over the past day plus has been really unwarranted to say the least. Some of y'all need a lot of help, and now this pure evil. So Brianna unfortunately tragically lost her little sister at some point in time, and this is someone emailing her with the username Brianna Dead Little Sister, saying that they hope that she rots in hell. Bear in mind, there's worse things in this email that I cannot show at all because of YouTube, but you get the point. This is very, very inappropriate. The voice actor June, who had made a tweet purposefully blacklisting Jacob from a role, said, "Genuinely, sincerely, I hope you find help. I really mean it. Troll behavior on Twitter is one thing, but sending direct emails is something else. It often points to a pain that's deeper inside the person. Whatever that may be, Kira, I hope you find help that heals that pain." And it's an email that says that he should end it all, but with more direct language. Also specifying that all other voice actors who also criticized Jacob should do the same thing. Corinna received the same exact email and said, "Guys, don't worry. My white blood cells are already trying to do that. It's just a matter of time. Be patient. Hashtag autoimmune." Another voice actor would receive the same exact message, again from Kira. I don't know who Kira is, bro, but hey, you gotta chill. The post said, "Love the community. Someone named Koro Kira thought this was the appropriate thing to send me this afternoon." This prompted Jacob to quote tweet this tweet saying, "Hey, I know tensions are high, but don't do this, Jesus. If you send threats to anyone on my behalf, too far, man. Too far. Sorry you had this happen to you, Kiba." And now I'm seeing it wasn't just Kiba. Come on, guys, way too far. Suicide and threats? No, just no. Knock it off.
Yeah. You can't really control like weirdo, but it's best to always like put a statement that don't fucking do this. I don't know why people sometimes people like shadowboxing a little bit too over the rainbow.
Someone replied to Jacob's post saying, "With respect, tensions would decrease significantly if you recognized and spoke publicly on the fact that voice actors aren't bullying you. If you truly didn't know about the strike, say so. If you did, say so. But voice actors are going to keep getting attacked until then." I shouldn't tell you that this was extremely controversial to say since it has 681 replies. But at this point, it was very safe to say people were tired of any voice actor that had something bad to say about Jacob. Kiba, the same person that had received that email, had posted a reply on the initial Kinect.
How do you process this? You're suddenly catching stray for no reasons. Like, seriously. Even if you keep telling, like, if I got catch stray for no reasons, I would not know how to react to it. Seriously.
Post. Someone had said, "Can we
like, especially when people already come in with a bad intentions of looking at you. Anything you say is, like, going to be bad. Here's the thing. This is one of my most golden, like, saying for anyone who want to understand any other things. Is this. If people are disagreeing with you, or don't like you, or don't like the idea of the things they are trying to, that you are talking about in the first place, they will disagree with you no matter how. Even you are right, they are going to disagree with you. Because it's fight or flight situations. When it comes to this kind of point, people will fight. And here's the thing. If people agree with you, they just nod their head. That's all. You don't really have to go and fight in flight mode because there's nothing for you to like win when you fight for this thing for nothing. It's like people weren't willing to shadow boxing for no reasons. And people who will disagree with you, they will spend a long page of essay trying to fight for it for no reasons. Because they disagree with you, so they want to debate. But when they lost the debate, they'll be like, still your fault. It's almost, you know, it's like a meme of like arguing with a girlfriend. No matter what you do, you will lose kind of situations. So, if you don't say anything, people will just complain about that you don't say anything. If you say something, people will still try their best to fight against you because you put yourself on the ring. You get the idea? Especially when you catch a stray from out of nowhere that you didn't even aware of, it's going to be even more difficult for you to like navigate into this like mess. It's best for you to literally not stand in the ring if you don't know how to defend yourself. Because if you try to defend yourself without knowing too much, you are going to make things even worse, you know. I say again, like, communication is the key. This is like a very bad communications at this point. The union have very bad communication with the actors, and then the actors also have very bad communication with the union, and then like because of that bad communication, they misunderstood like the core point of like some of the things, and then they start like shooting everyone else, and then every other people that are not really in the target that got caught stray. And then this caught stray is like create a domino effect that affects so many other people that it become like a very big shit show. Get that?
Collectively, please stop harassing this man. The amount of unprofessionalism from voice actors under this post is just chilling. Why choose to bully someone you don't even know when you can let John and Jacob work this out on their own? Twitter warrior culture is disgusting. Kiba then said, please stop using the words bullying and harassment so freely. It is very obvious you don't fully understand why we are upset. It's called scabbing. End of story. It is bad regardless. If this were a different situation outside of a strike, which does affect everyone, it'd be different. A couple days later, Kiba would tweet this. Getting followed just so people can shit on me is an encapsulation of how it feels to be a person of color and queer in this industry. To be honest, it's quite fascinating. Yeah, you know what? You're absolutely right. This is purely happening because of your skin color and your orientation. 100%. Obviously. Things were looking really bad, okay? The community that had supported these voice actors on their strike for months was now turning against them very violently and very quickly. This was the time to take a step back and reevaluate how to approach things, because clearly everyone was being harassed in some shape or form. But then SAG-AFTRA decides to step in personally and make things 1,000 times worse, opening up a can of worms in regards to the entire strike and their role as a union. On March 26th, a voice actor by the name of Aneris on Twitter had this to say. Hey, Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, and Zenless Zone Zero. We English voice actors would love to get back to work. I know the fans miss hearing their favorite characters and we miss voicing them. Please negotiate with SAG-AFTRA and sign the interim agreement to have us come back. What no one was expecting though is that SAG-AFTRA would quote tweet this and say what Aneris said. Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, Zenless Zone Zero, tagging all three of the biggest Hoyoverse games, right? And then saying, we'll make it easy for you. Here's a link to our interactive/video game media agreements. Let's talk soon. Wink face emoji. Now look, this was a big deal, all right?
Is this like self-insert agency?
SAG-AFTRA is negotiating with many studios behind closed doors, but this was the first time they publicly called out someone like this. It almost seemed like they were trying to use public pressure to make Hoyoverse resume talks with them. Now, I'm sure whoever tweeted this out thought that they were a genius in the moment, but guys, whoever's running this account has probably been fired because this tweet alone has probably caused incalculable PR damage to SAG-AFTRA and this entire strike, because on the next day, they got community noted, and it was extremely significant. Here's what it said. This agreement has severe limitations on how Hoyoverse can work with non-union voice actors, including a lifetime time limit for the voice actor, and eventually forcing the voice actor to either join the union, which has large entry costs and fees, or stop working on the project. Linking SAG-AFTRA's own website twice as the source for these claims. The first link is what we already looked at, showing how much it costs to join, $3,000, and a bunch of other fees to stay in. The second link actually included the SAG-AFTRA Independent Interactive Localization Agreement. This is what SAG-AFTRA was presenting to studios in order for them to sign it. It's 65 pages long, but what people were focusing on was Section 6 under Article 1 titled Union Security. It said, employer will only employ performers covered by this agreement who are members of SAG-AFTRA in good standing or those who shall make application for membership on the 30th day following the beginning of employment and thereafter maintain such membership in good standing as a condition of employment. Nothing in this agreement will be construed as preventing employer from hiring non-SAG-AFTRA members in accordance with the Taft-Hartley Act to perform in interactive programs. We'll get back to what this means later. But for now, they continue, employer shall pay to SAG-AFTRA as liquidated damages the sum of $500 for each breach by the employer of the provisions of this section. Any breach of this section is subject to arbitration. Each time the employer hires a performer in violation of this section, it shall be considered a separate breach irrespective of the number of days of employment. It is the employer's responsibility to ascertain if each performer is a member of SAG-AFTRA in good standing. Employers shall provide SAG-AFTRA the names of performers to be used in the production of interactive material no later than the time of hiring or 48 hours in advance of the initial sessions, whichever is later. SAG-AFTRA, making this tweet, thinking that they were going to publicly pressure Hoyoverse to talk with them, ended up backfiring because now people were reading the agreement in depth when they didn't even bother to do so before. As I already mentioned, they were in full support of voice actors and the strike because they thought it was purely just about AI rights. And after seeing this, they started not just questioning the strike and the voice actors themselves with their behavior, but SAG-AFTRA as a union. At the same time, the Chinese community of Genshin Impact.
Remember I keep talking about agency versus union? At least agency, if they screw after you, you know it's business. It's just business, boy. And then, if union, they literally put up front they are righteousness, and then like they technically are functioning as a business. It loses so much meaning. Like I say again, there's a big difference between agency and union. Union is practically like they try to not let people get screwed over. It's not really like business-centric thing. They are there for the worker, not there for themselves. But this try to look like they are for themselves more than for the workers sometimes. It's like, join us or you're fucked. And even you join us, you kind of fuck. Because now you kind of like lock with us. You would die with us. Like those kind of things. Like, at least if you work with an agency, it's like it's a very like one-turn relationship. You know it's a business transactions. If you got screwed over, you can't say it's the agency fault because it's their reputations to keep a good it's their job to keep a good reputations to get a good employer and get a good employee for them. So if they screw up, it's their fault. And then you can talk shit about that. But also at the same time, it's their job to like make it like, you know, you understand what I'm talking about. It's like they functioning similarly, trying to protect, but one is like protect purely because it's business. One is protect purely is because it's the interest of everyone. If you want me to choose, I choose the one that protect you purely because it's business. Because they have more of an incentive not to screw you over. Or to screw the employer over. Those kind of things. You get that?
Caught wind of this, and they were just as confused as everyone else, with one user explaining in detail that Hoyoverse, as a Chinese company, was already under strict anti-AI rules in China. Article 1023 of the Civil Code explicitly protects voice rights by referencing the protections for portrait rights. Unauthorized use of a person's voice, including highly similar AI-generated voices, constitutes infringement. If an AI-synthesized voice has identifiable characteristics like tone, intonation, or speech patterns that can be linked to a specific individual, it may still be deemed a violation of personality rights even if the original recording was not directly used. This law even covers using voices in different languages. This same Chinese user argued that if Hoyoverse were to sign the SAG-AFTRA agreement, they would face trouble in China because you can't join different unions as a Chinese company. You're already part of the All-China Federation of Trade Unions. This left people with more questions than answers. But at the same time, some others pointed out that, well, this is not true because Marvel Rivals actually signed the interim agreement, even though it was a game developed by NetEase, which is a massive Chinese corporation. In this case, though, it turned out to be unique because NetEase weren't the only ones in this. They were obviously collaborating with Marvel, a massive American company. And since Marvel already employs a huge amount of SAG-AFTRA voice actors and performers, it only made sense that they would sign it, but not as NetEase, the Chinese entity. It was Marvel, the American entity, that signed it on behalf of NetEase, who developed the game for them. So SAG-AFTRA and the voice actors were making this out to be like, oh yeah, you can just sign it. Just sign the agreement, bro. It's very simple, but it's actually way more complex than they made it out to be. As confusion was running absolutely rampant, Koidao, the voice of Albedo in Genshin Impact, decided to use the huge following he garnered during Genshin's explosion during the pandemic to clear confusion about the strike. Around the time Von Lycaon and Soldier 11's voice actors were let go from South Cadence, he made a little thread clearing some things up, saying, if you're just learning about the video game strike, I want to clarify a key detail I've seen get distorted a lot. Generally, the developer decides whether to sign an interim agreement, not the recording studio. Often, the studio is only a middleman, they do not set this term. A recording studio may offer AI protections in its own content, contract with the actor, but this ultimately means very little because the developer owns the final recordings, not the recording studio. They cannot dictate how the developer uses that audio. If the developer does violate the AI protection clauses in that contract, then the burden of enforcement would be on the actor. Often, that means one guy having to lawyer up against a multi-million/billion-dollar company. This is what we mean by enforceable AI protections, because while we are deeply grateful for any recording studio's personal support in the strike, the fact remains they do not have the power or resources to protect us or meaningfully enforce any AI clauses in their contracts.
Yes, this clear up a lot of confusion that I have confused about.
Currently, only a SAG interim agreement can effectively do that, as it would be backed by the union's legal resources and can meet any violation by a big company on the appropriate scale. That's why actors are holding the line and why outrage at a recording studio ain't it. So this did clarify a couple of things, why the interim agreement is so important, because it means that the union will back you up legally if problems arise. But on March 12th, when this post was made, people were already on the side of voice actors. When things started shifting though, he made another post after SAG-AFTRA's disaster of a quote tweet, saying, "Taps the sign with incomprehensible force. Any video game can bring back their full voice cast immediately during the strike once they agree to enforceable AI protections via a SAG interim agreement, and the game can still keep its non-union actors after doing so. This is not a union actor versus non-union actor conflict. The goal of the strike is to ensure that this craft isn't lost to AI. We've got a common goal, which is why so many non-union actors are holding the line alongside their union castmates, despite having no obligation to do so. Non-union actors are among those getting recast across the industry right now because they were holding out for enforceable AI protections. They understood that without these protections, the job disappears for all voice actors, and I desperately don't want their sacrifices to be in vain." But again, this post's problem is that it doesn't answer the main questions. Why is it that the union security clause sounds so weird in the contract? Why does it seem like this is targeting non-union voice actors, forcing them to join after 30 days? Some people were starting to have doubts that this was very simple. Like this person saying, "I'm just a dude on the internet, and it's not that I don't believe you, it's that I've been around on the internet to know nothing is that simple. There's always some bullshit you or whoever can't get into otherwise. Why isn't it being done already?" Koi replies with, "Hey, fortunately, with regards to this specific matter, it is that simple. Agree to enforceable AI protections and the voice actors can return. Over 150 games so far have signed on to the interim and were able to bring back their casts. It's happening right in front of our eyes." But we saw it with our own eyes, right? How there's 65 pages to this contract and there's only 12 mentions of artificial intelligence. 12 on 65 pages. What are the other pages for? And why does it seem like non-union actors get screwed over with this deal? Someone asked, "Where's your source that they can still keep non-union actors? Every other agreement made suggests otherwise." Koi replies with, "The Taft-Hartley Act of 1947 by law prohibits all labor unions, including SAG-AFTRA, from unilaterally barring non-union workers from union jobs. If a production wants to keep/hire a non-union actor, all they have to do is fill out a one-page form for that actor." Well, wait a second. I mean, if all you had to do was just fill up one page and keep working as a non-union actor, then I guess signing this contract is as simple as Koi is saying, right? Unfortunately, though, people were right to doubt this. Nothing is ever that simple. And for you to understand that, you need to understand what the hell a Taft-Hartley Act even is. Look, after the Wagner Act in 1935, unions were not only allowed to exist legally, but they also gained a ridiculous amount of influence. After World War II, they organized countrywide strikes that severely hurt the economy. In 1945 alone, almost 400,000 workers from different industries striked, and in 1946, over 1 million from different industries striked as well. Not to mention that things like union shops were becoming too prevalent. The government was slowly becoming more and more anti-union, and in 1947, they revised the Wagner Act with the Taft-Hartley Act. This made it illegal to have a union shop of any kind and prohibited certain types of strikes, like wildcat strikes, which is when unionized workers strike without the approval of their management. One of the most important aspects of this act was to give workers back some of the power that the unions had taken away from them. They could, for example, leave a union immediately without consequences. Before this act, they would have to give a 30-day notice, and if a strike was ongoing, they weren't allowed to work. But more importantly, this act allowed states to enact right-to-work laws. This gave workers the freedom to choose whether or not to join a union in their workplaces. Complete freedom. But you might be wondering, why is this necessary if union shops were made illegal? Well, it gets a bit complicated. There are currently only 26 out of the 50 American states that have right-to-work laws. This means that I can join any industry without ever, and I mean ever, having to join any kind of union, period. But if a state has no right-to-work law, then they must follow the Taft-Hartley Act, which states that if you were to join an industry that has a union contract, you have to join that union after 30 days. Again, if you're European, you must be very confused right now. I am too. But as you can very clearly see on this map, California is not a right-to-work state. And according to SAG-AFTRA's own website, this is what the process looks like if you want to hire a non-union actor. First, you have to submit compliance documentation. The Taft-Hartley form is required by producers who intend to hire non-union actors under specific conditions. The form must explain why a non-union member should be hired over union talent. This can include actors having special skills, they are famous, have certain physical appearances, among other qualifications. The union will review each Taft-Hartley form and decide whether the non-union actor meets the criteria to be eligible. 2. 30-day window. Once the non-union actor is approved to be hired under the Taft-Hartley form, they have 30 days to work on the union project without being required to join SAG-AFTRA. And then 3 talks about union eligibility. But one thing's for certain, when I'm reading this, I'm thinking, wait, this kind of just sounds like a union shop with extra steps. You're forced to join the union. Not to mention that this compliance documentation step makes things more complicated. I mean, seriously, reviewing every single form individually and deciding on whether you can hire them or not? You want to know what's even better? On SAG-AFTRA's own website, in their FAQ section about this, they have a question titled, "How long does it take to process a Taft-Hartley report?" Their answer is, "Due to the high volume of new media productions, please allow at least 6 to 8 weeks for principal Taft-Hartley reports to be processed. Please note, Taft-Hartley reports will not be processed until all final production paperwork has been submitted. This paperwork includes the cast clearance report, example, timesheets, performer contracts, and final cast list." What is this, man? Am I applying for a visa? Slowly but surely, you start to understand why Hoyoverse would not be interested in this. They're hiring studios with AI protections to find voice actors on their behalf. Why would you subject yourself to such bureaucracy? So if I tell you right now that more than 80% of voice acting gigs use a non-union contract, would you be really surprised? But technically, as a union member, you're not really allowed to work these non-union jobs. So what's the alternative? How do you avoid SAG-AFTRA's wrath? Well, you become something called FICOR. This means that you can work on non-union jobs even if a strike is ongoing. You still pay the dues every year to SAG-AFTRA, but you can't claim any of the benefits. As an added bonus, SAG-AFTRA actually calls you a scab if you're FICOR. Financial Corps members are viewed as scabs or anti-union by SAG-AFTRA members, directors, and writers, most of whom also belong to entertainment unions. By the way, this entire page about FICOR on SAG-AFTRA is literally just begging you not to do it, okay? It's like, please, like you are losing this is the worst decision of your life. And you know why? That's because once you turn FICOR, you're essentially exiling yourself from SAG-AFTRA. It is extremely hard to join again. The more people kept digging about how SAG-AFTRA works, how the Taft-Hartley works, and how complex all these terms are, the more they became disgusted with SAG-AFTRA and the strike and the voice actors acting entitled on Twitter. Coy understood this.
This is why I say there's a lot of complexity with one thing. Like, as things like you fight long enough, it becomes so complex to the point that you lost the plot. Union is a good thing. Was a good thing at this point. But once like some certain level of setting, they are there and keep adding stuff without either like replacing or like reform a little bit of this and that, yeah, that stuff. It's just going to become worse and worse. You know, times change, things change, you know? And once it changed to a certain rate, yeah, you might become the villain more than become the hero of the cause that you're trying to fight.
And tried his best to answer these questions that people were asking all over social media to the best of his ability. He does specify that a Taft-Hartley can be extended 3 times, up to 90 days. He then answers a question that says, but it sounds like the Taft-Hartley process can be exhausted and that actor will have to join eventually, to which Hoy confirms, correct, under normal circumstances, after the third 30-day period, the actor is required to join if they wish to continue working on union project.
You know what? This guy did a great job to clear the confusion and stuff. It's like really confusing, and Mugen mixed with this guy makes this even more clearer.
However, with the ongoing strike, the SAG negotiating committee has publicly stated that they want to help non-union actors keep their jobs and eliminate whatever complications they can to that end. As such, they are able to negotiate a waiver for the must-join rule. This would be granted on a case-by-case basis, and the details of such a waiver would be determined in negotiations between the production and the SAG negotiating committee. The next question is, the production has to negotiate, so it's not a guarantee? I don't like that. To which Coy responds, bro, I promise they're not going to flip a coin to decide whether or not to grant the waiver. Negotiations are necessary, if only to make sure neither party is conditioning their commitment on some kind of loophole that undermines the other. And with the existential threat of AI, it is very much in the union's interest to grant these waivers wherever they can to get productions to agree to AI protections. So again, guys, this is all for AI. No matter what, this is all for AI protections. Even though it's only mentioned 12 times in the interim agreement, this is the true goal. One question says, I'm still not comfortable with this requirement to join. Sounds like a big organization bullying the little guy. To which Koi responds, I understand how this whole situation can give off that impression, and it's worsened by all the misinformation and anti-union propaganda out.
It's not like anti-union propaganda or not. It's more like I can see the point when you say that. It's like prevent like little guy trying to punch up the big guys, which is impossible. You can see the appeal. But there's so many steps and process involved. The politics behind it, the paperwork behind it, and every single thing. And they definitely know. Like, here's the thing. SAG is a union for entertainment industry. They definitely know the work behind entertainment industry, how complex it is in the first place. So if they didn't amend enough to make this process as smooth as possible, feels like they did it on purpose. I can definitely say they try to do something good. But at the end, I think it's like the workflow has become too complex and too old, and incompetence happens, make this process even harder. And now they are looking at bad light because of it. This is more or less like what you call the classic case of incompetence.
Out there. SAG-AFTRA is not a corporation. It is a non-profit labor union, albeit one comprised of very annoying theater.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to like say again. Is because union is not like what they call like a it's basically it's a non-profit labor union. A agency versus like union have a very clear difference when it comes to like the goal of what they're doing, but they're essentially doing the same thing. But also the way they protect and attack people is complete different. When I say attack, I don't mean like they physically go and threaten people or like shoot them or anything like that. I mean like the way they approach the conflict to mitigate the conflict is very different. You know, it's like if this company hired this agency to hire people, and then they screw over all the people they hired, no people is going to like go to that agency anymore. Like imagine if like a company keep doing the same thing over and over again to that particular agency. All agency talk to each other. They can blacklist that freaking company. If you got blacklisted by that freaking company, you are going to do everything on yourself. People hire agency to hire people for a reason, because they don't have resources to do that. Or they don't have the expertise or the people that understand the industry enough to do that. And if they got blacklisted, means like that particular company is going to spend even more time, more resources, a little bit more this, a little bit more that. Like in business impact, it impact a lot. So instead of saying like you are going to do this to harm the workers, you will get harmed yourself, like indirectly, in the way like with agency to like see it this way. You know, agency aren't like people who start an agency as a career. They aren't stupid. They have their own money to take care of. Like they have their own bowl of rice, or in a way like own bowl of food to like take care of. It's a responsibility. They also have like a reputation they're also trying to protect too. They might not fight like a union, say like they prevent like the little guy unable to fight with the big guys. The agency kind of like can group up like a freaking union itself, if like a company really does a lot of shit to a lot of people. Because they are also doing the same thing. They need to feed themselves too. So they have more incentive to help or mitigate this kind of issues happen. Might not be the best solutions, obviously, but if you put me in a situation on this two kind of situations, nowadays I don't really trust the people helping you out of the virtue of the things. Because people would willingly to help you more if there's money on the line. I know this sounds really, very capitalistic at this point, but it's some things that you can think about. Like, people do something as exchange, this and that, yet stuff. Even you don't see it in a very capitalistic point, you can see the domino effect that can happen. And people who work as agency, they aren't idiot. People who they hired, the people that getting hired also are not idiot. The company they hired also, they aren't that kind of idiot. But apparently, a lots of company in the US that happens that they apparently are. I'm not even kidding. They trying to screw over the people they hired so much to a point. A lot more people on like outside of US looking at how they do business. They questioning them like, how do they keep doing this and like no consequences happening there? Because again, like most business people know the consequences of domino effect. They try to minimize the domino effect as much as possible. And then like the quite a lot of company decided to do like the weirdest thing in the world, and then they basically try to commit seppuku in the most grandiose way as possible. Looking at like Ubisoft, everything is like it's not like they screw over their like employee and stuff. It's more like you know, like a lot of company, the big ass company these days, the way they operate is like they literally forgo the ability to try to earn money for some reasons. It's like the money is not on the line anymore for some reasons, and then they just like forgo everything and then just try to commit the best company self-sabotaging in the best way possible. Man, it's weird.
Kids, but a union nonetheless. Its sole purpose is to ensure the health and safety of actors and to protect them from exploitation, which, along with the health insurance plans and on-set emergency staff, are funded by membership dues. That's why there's a limit to the Taft-Hartley process. If there were no requirement to join, nobody would join, and those protections would become financially unsustainable. He ends this with a question that says, "This is still a lot of maybes. Why should I believe you? You sound like a union shill." To which he replies with, "My dude, I totally understand that none of this is close to perfect, and I am not a union fanatic by any means. There are multiple documented instances of me publicly calling out the union leadership, but if AI eliminates this job, then it won't matter how any voice actor feels about the union. Video game voice acting will be a thing of the past. I want to make sure this job still exists in 5 to 10 years for all aspiring voice."
Yeah, it's like not the perfect solutions, but it is somewhat of a solutions. Even the solution somewhat functioning in a way that is a detriment to the entire process of like entertainment industries. Yes, I can see that point. I can see like what he is like aiming at. He's trying his best. Bro is trying his best. Maybe he's wrong in some way, but also he's correct in many ways.
Actors to have a shot at chasing the stream, and the union is the only sufficiently powerful tool we have to that end. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but if making sure that non-union voice actors can still work is your main concern, you gotta bet on the entity trying to save this art from extinction, not the one with the incentive to replace all actors with AI. Again, I know it's not perfect, but we can't wait for the perfect solution when AI is at the doorstep and already replacing human voice actors. It is significantly easier for actors to fix the imperfections of a labor union, which is beholden to its members and relies on public support, than it is for any one of us to individually dictate the actions of a multi-billion-dollar company. In other words, he says, TLDR, I'm not a huge fan of the union, they are a means to an end. So no matter how weird or counterintuitive some of the contract might be, it's all justified because it's all about AI. And while I understand his viewpoint, it's not really the answer you're looking for when you're already doubting the entire strike and the union behind it. But Koi wasn't the only one trying to rally people back into joining this cause. Another Hoyoverse voice actor by the name of Kyle McCarley posted on the Genshin Impact subreddit a thread by the title SAG-AFTRA members seeking to clear up some confusion. The only problem is that again, people were left with more questions than answers. It wasn't a very popular post. The top comment was wondering, why doesn't SAG-AFTRA just come out and make an official statement to clarify things and clear up confusion and misinformation for the general public instead of having voice actors as their mouthpieces and only wink wink nudge nudge at Hoyoverse on Twitter? This is a very good point. Why are voice actors having to do the union's job? Someone else pointed out the contradictory nature of this thread, where one of the bullet points said there is no requirement imposed by SAG-AFTRA for all performers hired on a union project to be union members. Such a requirement would in fact violate US labor law. But then goes on to say, once those 30 days have expired, they become must join. Honestly, at this point, not saying anything would have been better, because every time a voice actor tried to clear up misinformation, they only ended up confusing people.
Yeah, this is like a big ass communication issues. I say it at the very beginning, and then this is the very big ass communication issues. I bet this thing. SAG-AFTRA have no idea what inside the contract is anymore, too. Trust me. Things has been ages and keep replacing, and things, because it works, it just works. They never replace any rules, any things that have issues. Maybe sometimes they have some issues, like the previous post that did say, is the end justifies the mean. So they didn't bother to refine it. And as time passed, it's similar to how I say, like, why is like idol contract and K-pop contract or anything like related to entertainment industry is always so horrible? It's because back in the olden days, it was horrible because it was kind of like criminally syndicatized, you know? So like, it's like they are trying to earn as much money as possible too, because like crime syndicate. So obviously the contract is going to be like as favor to the studio as much as possible. And not going to be favor to the actors. There's no way actor can say anything. You know? Crime syndicate. And it's not going to be favor if you decided to question the clause. And you like, it would be lucky if you managed to get a chance to become an actor, or like become a singer, or become popular in the first place. Like, you will still get benefit. Obviously, they aren't idiot. If there's no performer, they can't earn money. So they will also try their best to at least give you a little bit carrot enough for you to function as a human. That's the thing. And it's because of that, those kind of like contract, even though there's no any like crime syndicate tied anymore, like in the later futures, and because the contract just keep passing down over and over again, because it works and it's also favor on the have favor on like the studio side in the first place. Why would they bother to change the contract or like any rule or streamline any things? Long as it works, you don't touch it. Same with programmer code. It works. So because they never really bother to touch it, as generation pass, things keep changing, keep improving, the world keep shifting, the contracts still stay the same. And as you can see, more things become like more unfair and more unfair. Maybe some patchwork did add into it, but it was never enough. It need like a complete reformations in some sense. But they never did because it works. Especially in the way that it works more in favor for them. Why would they change it into the way that is not going to work more in favor for them? And that's the point. And because of that, they didn't bother to change. And now shit show happened. They can't say anything because they never bothered to change, never bothered to have the idea to reform everything in the first place. Now issue arise, people see it, even they see it. They are thinking about how to fix it. They can't say anything. Like I say again, you put yourself in the ring, you're going to get punched at this point. If you don't have a good way to defend yourself, don't put yourself outside the ring. But because it's such a big issue, so many people from the audience side come out from the ring and get punched for no reasons. Now all the voice actor at the moment is literally catching stray, getting punched for no reasons. Some people willing to came out and get punched. Some people just stand there in the audience side for no reason. A glove fly onto them from the shadow boxing and then they got hit. You get that kind of like situations that are happening right now. I won't really say it's like a big complete misunderstanding. This is actually a big mess that come out from incompetence. Like I say, this is why questioning myself, did I get into like voice acting in the most wrong time in the world? Because if I'm making this video and I turn this into a clip, I'm going to get punched for no reasons. I'm literally putting myself in the ring, and then people keep shadowboxing me.
Even more, people were starting to conclude that this entire strike was nothing more than a Trojan horse, disguised as an AI protection for voice actors, but in reality only had voice acting monopoly and mafia practices. But we're not even talking about the real issue yet. The real issue is the fact that this strike's weird contradictory nature made people want to look more into SAG-AFTRA as an organization, and what people started finding out wasn't really pretty. Remember the strike in 2023 done by SAG-AFTRA? This was meant to give people working in Hollywood more livable wages and, more importantly, AI protections. Well, it turned out that many people were disappointed with these so-called protections. This article from Prism said this: critics of the deal who spoke to Prism were most concerned about the sections on generative AI, which is used to create synthetic performers or digitally created assets that are not any specific human performer but generated entirely through AI. This is uncharted territory. SAG-AFTRA member, actor, and director Satu Runa in Los Angeles believes the union should have stood against its use, period, rather than trying to work with it. It's very easy to replace us with this technology, she said. We shouldn't normalize it. The protections also include some significant loopholes. For one, for AI involving the participation of human actors, Schedule F performers who make more than $80,000 for a film are exempted, and consent is not required from actors if the photography or soundtrack remains substantially as scripted, performed, and/or recorded. Prior consent given can apply for future features if the producer includes a reasonably specific description of the intended use, language that could be interpreted broadly by producers. So if you make more than $80,000 on a film, those AI protections don't even apply to you, not unless specified, which is counterintuitive. Why did the strike even occur to begin with? And speaking of money, you know what's really interesting? Only 14% of SAG-AFTRA performers make more than $26,470 annually. Remember those wonderful benefits you get for signing up to SAG-AFTRA? One of them being health insurance? Yeah, you could only qualify for it if you make more than $27,540 a year. This means that over 86% of people who paid the $3,000 initiation fee and are part of SAG-AFTRA miss out on one of its most important benefits. Oh, and if you do actually end up getting the healthcare coverage, well, your information is just going to leak anyway, because on December 10th, 2024, SAG-AFTRA went through a data breach. And according to this article, personal information obtained in the breach includes names, social security numbers, and health insurance details. And the union, SAG-AFTRA, only notified these members almost 3 months after the incident. Isn't that wonderful? You pay $3,000 to join a union, right? You're finally making money as an actor, and now someone can steal your identity and you only are told about it 3 months later. But it's okay, because the chief of SAG-AFTRA is making over $1 million every year, guys.
This is why I say I don't trust this kind of union. Maybe they have a point, but they lost the plot a long time ago. I rather trust a agency rather than union. If you guys don't know what union is, it's more like union is like they create a group that represent the entity or the job, and then they try to negotiate for a fairer wage. It's a guild, yes, essentially it's a guild. But agency is that company, he need voice actors, so he hired the agency to find voice actor for him, and then the voice actor will go through the agency and work for the company. And then, obviously, the company pay the agency fee to hire them in the first place. Also, the agency will also get some of the money siphoning from the jobs the people like the voice actors to like as like introduction fee, you know, like those kind of things. So it's a very business transactions. The agency have a like responsibility to take care on the client and then take care on the employee they find. Because if either one of them screw them over, he is going to get the blame. The agency is going to get all the blame. And then the agency would try their best. If the client side keeps screwing over all the people that they find, people are not going to like listen to them when they call out for finding people for jobs. They aren't going to get any money from that if that happens. So the agency are going to smart enough. If this client keep getting screwed over all the people like they find for them, like that client is going to get blacklisted. And you know what? Agency is talking with each other most of the time. So if that company decides to screw over people consistently, not like an accident or anything, like corporate like incompetence accidents, it's like consistently they do it on purpose, they are going to get blacklisted. And if that company, if that client company get blacklisted, they have to do everything on their own. They have to hide on their own. They have to have the expertise. They have to find the circles. They have to do this, do that. Everything costs money. It's a net loss if they do that. So the client side, they also understand that issues. They won't try to screw over. It's like a complete business transaction border. They understand they are not trying their best not to screw over the domino effect. This same apply with like the employee the agency find. They are trying their best to not just protect the employee they find. They are trying their best to apply that to the client they find too. If this particular employee is this particular like either I won't really say voice actor, like imagine it's the woodworkers that do like that's like built stage for people to dance on. If that guy is always like skipping out material fee, or like he basically is a very rude person, like while working over the client side, and always like having like fight with the client, or even physically punch all the client that he have met so far, that guy is going to get like blacklisted. I, as an agency, I have a reputation to protect. I'm taking money from that side and taking money from that side. Become like their intention of trying to protect you become very transactional because there's money involved. So if I'm going to say, if a group like a union decided to say, I will protect you out of the kindness of my heart to represent the entire youth, but also you have to pay this fee to me so I can function as a union to properly do our jobs. But still, our intention is like for everyone here. We are the kind good guys. If they like the complete intentions is not like business transactions, but they still trying to take money. Then you would like, it's like non-profit organizations, but you still need money to function in the first place. Non-profit organization doesn't mean that you're really non-profit. You really function in a way that is like still taking money at the end, okay? And in order to function as an organization, you need money. So at the end, the union kind of functions like an agency. But they're doing the same jobs. But in a way, they kind of function. One is doing like agency is doing like within like business. Everything they do is business. And they are trying to profit as a business. Obviously, they will try to deal with this kind of situation as clear cut as possible, you know? And then as for union, they keep telling you that, nah, this is for everyone, you know? This is for our futures and everything. And then like they like the intention they have is like for the employee and never trying their best to help the employer side. It's like a one-way street. Like respect come from both sides, you know? It's a back and forth things. But the way that how union functions is more like extorting like the company, to be honest, like on the client side. And then on the employee side, if you don't give me money, I don't have the power to force them to do the stuff that will help you. Get the idea. You get the pictures, right? They are doing the same things, and getting money in the same time. If you're going to say like who I am going to trust, despite like union side have more power, if like the big company decided to screw the small guys over, the union will help them. But the chance of that is like such a big ass domino effect. It's like Goliath versus like David versus Goliath situation. If you guys don't know, it's basically like small guy punching big guys, and then people will see who is doing wrong in the first place. Like those kind of things like happens. It's bad PR for like a lot of company, to be honest. Like no company would willingly try to do that unless they are incompetent in the first place. I won't really say union is like redundant. It exists for reasons. But it exists for a little bit far too long. That particular entity. They lost the plot a long time ago. Like I say again, contract stuff like exist to help them. They exist to help them in the first place. But as time goes, culture change. The way like business functions also different. And because the contract work doesn't mean you don't need to reform or like change how the contract works. And because like how things functions, because it works, they never bother to change. They never bother to do anything because at the end it's beneficial them in the first place. They will definitely not change. Like who would try to stab themselves out of nowhere for other people? This is why when the union kind of like say in a way that it's for you guys, I never really trusted them. I rather trust a sleazebag that have a clear code that I need money. And I understand if this guy screw you, I won't earn money. Or you screw them, I won't earn money. I will try my best to mitigate, to prevent that shit happen in the first place. Because it's my interest to earn money. I would rather trust that guy than people that got too comfortable and then refused to like reform stuff because it's going to impact either them or like the overall structures of the things they're trying to like stand for. Get out of here. Like I say again, they keep shadowboxing for no reasons. Why? I know they want to, like, the argument is basically like, if you don't fight them now, they might do something wrong later. It's like preemptive strike, those kind of things. But that is not, like, if you want, please consult your union in the first place. Now those guys actually like create situations that is like making a lot more people catching stray for no reasons. They keep shadowboxing themselves.
Shortly afterwards, Kaylee deleted her Twitter account. Probably for the best, because God knows what else she would have said that would have hurt.
Like, again, I say it again, I want to become a voice actor and trying to earn a living because I have disability, I can't work. If I work due to my physical conditions, I may not have the energy to stream or anything like that, or do voice acting or anything. It's basically, it's going to like erase my capability of trying to get another career. And yeah, and also I actually got a job nowadays. It's for retail work. And then I'm going to stay there, like work from like 10 to 8. It's not going to help a lot. At least I got like a stable income. And why I say that is because like at this very beginning, they did say this one thing. It's like,
actor performers insurance details. And the
this particular part that is like, where's it? Yeah. Voice actor barely earn anything. Voice actor is actually a job that you lose money.
Benefits you get for signing up to SAG-AFTRA, $6,470 annually. Remember those wonderful benefits you get for...
Again, like this particular part.
The strike even occur to begin with. And speaking of money, you know what's really interesting? Only 14% of SAG-AFTRA performers make more than $26,470 annually.
Look at this. This is the amount of money out when you guys can't see it. Look at it. This is the amount of money you guys they actually earn annually. It's not a livable wage. Annually. And if you discount that if you're not in the union, like imagine that you have to discount like stuff that you paid, the agency or anything, or any union, you get like full things. Like if you have to pay for the union and then work for the rate, I think you would have add 10K more into it annually. Basically, you earn like 36K annually. This is why I say like if you want to function livable wage and function in a third world country, I don't think it's possible. This is why when I got into like voice acting, I did tell them I'm trying to, work in a way that I want to live, earn enough to live. They told me that it's impossible. You have to have a job to do voice acting at the same time in order to function. And you can see like it's a very tough competition. Like,
the strike even occur to begin with. And speaking of money, you know what's really interesting? Only 14%.
Imagine even union-based only like 14%. Which union try their best to make voice actor earn a livable and fair wage in the first place. But it's just 40% to manage to earn this over that rate. It's a very steep competition. Because here's the thing. Everyone can get a mic. Everyone can have a voice. Everyone can change their voice. It's a very simple thing. Might sound a little bit hard. If person have personalities, they play their personality. They don't even have to have acting skills sometimes. Because all they do is play their own personalities. And it works. Once it works, it works.
AI protections. We've already seen how this strike is meant to make healthcare more affordable and raise rates or whatever, but like, is Hoiverse really that bad of an employer? Are they underpaying these voice actors? Are they subjecting them to slave labor? Is this evil Chinese company exploiting our beloved voice actors and underpaying them? Is this why we really need a contract to be signed right now? No. According to Kaylee, even though the game is non-union, many of us are making the union rate. So what are we doing? Apparently not enough, because shortly afterwards, Kaylee deleted her Twitter account. Probably for the best, because God knows what else she would have said that would have hurt this strike even more. But it's okay, because this is like a tag team wrestling match. Kaylee's out, but guess who's in now? Karina.
The voice actor behind Paimon decided to post an unhinged rant on TikTok, and I could...
To be honest, I'm grateful for her, because if she didn't crash out like this, I would not know this kind of things.
Try to explain it. Probably won't succeed, so just watch, okay?
Okay, here's the thing. If voice actors, both non-union and union, in a video game want a game to go union, the game should go union. Nobody else's opinion matters. That's it. And YouTubers don't know anything. YouTubers don't know anything. They're not voice actors. They've never been in my industry. They don't know what my industry is about. They don't know anything about SAG. They don't know anything about being a non-union actor either. Stop telling me to go to liar.
Here's the thing. At this point, I don't think even voice actors understand how the union functions.
Liars. They are paid to lie to you. Also, I'm sorry. They have more incentive to lie. They have more of an incentive to lie because idiots like you fall for their shit and they get paid for that. Hello? God forbid. I want my industry to actually, like, I don't know, function and that everybody gets paid and everybody gets, like, healthcare. Did you know that, like, once things become union, people get paid a lot more? So people are like, oh, but, you know, then some non-union actors will have to join the union. Yeah, they'll be able to, easily, because they'll get paid more. Also, there are options that the union has to help pay for those things. There are options to help people pay for the union dues within SAG, but you don't know that. Oh my God, it's almost like you're not an actor. It's almost like you're not a voice actor. And neither are those YouTubers. But bottom line is that both non-union actors and union actors in a video game want it to go union and have wanted it to go union for a long time. So nobody else's opinion that is super fucking wrong anyway matters. Hope this helps.
Damn, I guess I'm... I guess I'm lying to you guys. You know, just don't listen to me because I'm a YouTuber apparently.
Yeah, Mujin, you're a fucking liar.
Karina instead, the voice and face of reason.
I won't believe you ever again, Mujin. Show your face. I don't trust this embodiment voice here.
But seriously, what was the goal here? Not only does it come off as unhinged, but it's also all over the place and says things that don't make any sense. Genshin...
Hear about Genshin. the auto translation things, but still, again, like yeah, like you try to think about it. Think about all these things that are happening to you. It's like confusing so much to the point. Like, I don't think even like voice actor actually understand how the fucking union works at this point. They think they know, but in reality they don't. Maybe some actually do, but I think majority actually don't actually know enough. Like, they know, but not enough. Imagine you just, like, looking at the perspective of only the voice actor side, and then not in the perspective of any other party involved. Some people might view it that way. So they understand the issues a little bit more in the voice actor side. But there's still thing, like, when it comes to conflict, again, it's not something that happens out of nowhere. Come with a clap, you know. There's another hand there. If there's issues, you have to understand, like, both sides. Okay? You can't... This is what happened right now. People self-clapping with one hand. They clap their own hand.
was never a part of the strike. People are striking because they want Genshin to have a union contract. Why? Because it pays more. But they're already being paid the union rate. Then comes the topic of healthcare and benefits. But you know what's funny? As far as I know, and I could be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure Karina is FICOR, not even a full-fledged member of SAG-AFTRA. You become FICOR purely because you want to work non-union jobs without getting into trouble. For that privilege, you're exchanging every benefit that comes with being a SAG-AFTRA member, including healthcare benefits. So I'm so confused, dude. Like,
Because here's the thing again, it's so fucking confusing. Nobody actually understands anything. And people keep shadowboxing in the ring. and keep getting hit by the stray.
Genuinely don't understand what the point of this rant was. And yet, Corinna was kind of becoming the unofficial spokesperson of voice actors regarding
This is very unintentional, but look at the auto like subtitle thing.
And yet, Corinna was
I shit you not. Karen.
kind of becoming the unofficial spokesperson of voice actors regarding the SAG-AFTRA strike, which I'm sure you can understand is a disaster. The most ironic thing in all this is that Corinna makes this out to be a life or death situation, while continuing to work on Genshin Impact as the most important character for voice acting. You just can't make this up. And this just makes this whole rant even funnier. I mean, honestly, this is this even reached Chinese players, and they didn't really have a lot of nice.
Like, here's the thing. I go back again. I this thing like working in my brain right now, but go back again. Like when he mentioned her name in here,
strike, which I'm sure you can understand is a disaster. The most ironic thing in all this is that Corinna makes this.
Now it's actually make her name correctly. For some reason, at that particular part, like Google become like, she sounds like a Karen. Let me write Karen.
This out to be a life or death situation, while continuing to work on Genshin Impact as the most important character for voice acting. You just can't make this up. And this just makes this whole rant even funnier. I mean, honestly, this is this even reached Chinese players, and they didn't really have a lot of nice things to say. Saying things like, please change Paimon's English voice actor, everyone will be happy. I'll even do another 6 months of battle passes if you want. I'll top up too if they do it. If I were an English dub enjoyer and have to listen to this rat scream any longer, I would actually quit the game. What a voice. It's like a desperate mouse that got pressed onto a grill by a piece of bread and slowly gets made into a sandwich. God damn, these Chinese players are ruthless. Oh, and just to add more fuel to the fire, Corinna said on Blue Sky that this TikTok was AI. It's not the original. Sure. Damn, AI sure got very advanced since the last time I checked. Interesting. Corinna then posted a video that featured a toilet. Corinna just sat there in front of the toilet saying that all this harassment was overwhelming, that vomit can come out at any second, and then complained for 8 minutes about the strike. Yeah, this is actually real. This video is not AI. I think it's safe to say that if Hoyoverse find a new voice actor for Paimon, then it would kind of be justified just over this insane erratic behavior. Because when have you ever seen a voice actor crash this hard? The amount
Hate to say this, not exactly her fault. It's the confusions that the fucking union made. And they decided to not do anything and let voice actors to go out in the ring do shadow boxing themselves. Aren't they supposed to like help the voice actors? I'm more angry at the union at all in the first place. It's not like I may try to laugh a little bit because like the situation has become so hilarious at this point, but you guys kind of can see like it's the union fault at this point, you know? The lack of communication to their voice actor in the first place that work under them, and the lack of communications between each others like happens both ways, and then suddenly like someone decided to go away of the line, and then like the forking line happened. I'm not cursing in like alternative way. I mean like actually a forking line happened, and then like things just divert into a very weird course, and they never even bother to fix it in the first place. They know it's wrong, but they never bother to fix it, and then things spiral out of control. Because here's the thing. I don't think even the union understand what is happening in their own circle in the first place. Like, this kind of shit happens. Really came out nowhere, to be honest.
The amount of damage that this strike had sustained in just the span of a few days was incalculable. Joe Zieja, the voice actor behind the Genshin character of Risley, decided to step up. He had already made a video when the video game strike had begun explaining why voice actors were striking, and now thought that he needed to make a new video explaining what's been going on with Hoyoverse while clearing any misinformation about the strike itself, saying, I do my best to inject clarity into what has become a really sad cyclone of misinformation and toxicity. RE, the SAG-AFTRA strike, Genshin Impact, the recasts, and AI. Similar to my first video on the strike, it's an attempt to educate, not aggravate. But it ended up not really helping the situation as much as he was hoping, with this post quote tweeting it and saying, "So they bullied the new Kinich voice actor for a strike that does not exist?" Yeah. Let's look at the video real quick. So one of the first things he does is reiterate that the whole point of the strike is that SAG-AFTRA actors are not allowed to work with the struck video game companies. But as we saw earlier, Hoyoverse is not one of the struck video game companies. He then goes on to explain what's been happening with Genshin Impact and Hoyoverse games, and yeah, you'll find out soon enough why that tweet that we just saw was made. I'll put it on 1.5 speed. Watch.
That started production before the strike are also not struck. It's a very confusing atmosphere, I know, but I can relieve that confusion for Genshin fans specifically by saying this. Do you know what company isn't in that select group of production companies being struck? Hoyo. I cannot emphasize enough that MiHoYo properties are not and never have been union games. Therefore, Genshin has never been a struck property. There are 0 union rules governing Genshin or any MiHoYo game, period. End of story as of this date. This is not a debate. This means
Like I say again, if you are doing things yourself, do not represent an entity when you do things. Some people decided to do shadowboxing and say, I'm doing shadowboxing on behalf of someone. And then they'd be like, what the fuck? And then some people who are like also working under the entity suddenly got fucking punched for no reasons. Because somebody decided to go up the ring shadow punching. Shadowboxing for no reasons. This make no sense. This make no sense. Like, always I can tell one thing. Everything good, even everything justified, long enough, there will be 1-2 extremists or 1-2 like stray coming out doing some things on their own and think they are doing for the represent the entire thing because they've been sticking along with it for too long, and then they ruin the whole thing. They ruin the whole thing. People can't have nice things because of that too.
and I want you to listen very carefully here. If the SAG-AFTRA strike ended tomorrow, this would mean absolutely nothing for Hoyo Games and its actors. If suddenly WB and Formosa, Keywords, all the rest threw a ticker tape parade and said, we agree to all the actors' demands, yay! Nothing would change for Genshin or Star Rail or Triple Z or any other non-union game. So point number one, please stop talking about Genshin like it has anything to do with the SAG-AFTRA strike. Genshin is not a union game. The actors working on it are not working under a union contract, period. Put a pin in that, okay? Because we're gonna come back to the idea of union and non-union actors in a minute, now that we've sort of covered union and non-union games. Okay, so why the hell aren't actors going in to record lines for Genshin if it's not struck? When the strike happened, many Genshin actors got together in various disparate channels and decided that now would be a good time to try to engage with Hoyo and encourage them to take some action. Actors could use the momentum, the social momentum of the SAG-AFTRA strike to include Hoyo properties in the conversation. Again though, it's not a strike and it has nothing to do with the union. Since this is not a strike, I'm not going to call it a strike. From here on, I'm going to call it a collective work refusal because it's not governed by any one body like SAG-AFTRA. There is no one result desired like a collective bargaining agreement, and there is no penalty for not participating, unlike the SAG-AFTRA strike. If you're a union member and you cross the line and record games you're not supposed to, you can be penalized. In a non-union environment, that doesn't exist. So, what did Genshin actors want? This is where some of the confusion kind of begins. The goal wasn't really totally clear. Some actors wanted them to sign a union agreement and flip union, become a union game. You might have heard this called an interim agreement, which just has to do with an agreement that's going on during a strike, or a full union contract. There's some nuance of difference here. Because Genshin's an ongoing game, they're essentially the same thing. Others wanted them to just add AI protections into their non-union contract. Something like the Nava rider, okay? Which is something that any actor can attach to any contract to legally protect themselves against AI exploitation. And some actors, understandably, didn't really know what to think about the whole thing, but they were motivated by the social side, solidarity, social obligation, community feeling, and they also refused to work. This is part of the problem of non-union games, or non-union anything, actually. Since there's no actual collective bargaining agreement governed by any union, it becomes difficult for a group of people to take a collective action. In social psychology, you call this a collective action problem. It's very complicated. So anytime a group of non-union actors tries to get together to achieve any result, it's hard. It's hard for us to communicate. It's hard for us to bargain. Since there are no rules in place, any actor is free to just disregard that collective effort at any time with no penalty, unlike, again, an actual strike where you can get fined or kicked out of the union for strike breaking.
So Joe confirmed one thing that we've looked at so far in this video. Genshin was never part of the strike, Hoyoverse games have never been part of the strike, and this is literally as if you were working in a corporation. Let's say you work at Amazon. You and your coworkers decided to stop showing up to work one day. You can't even agree on why you're striking, okay? Half of you want AI protections, the other half wants more money. What do you expect? What do you think that Amazon's gonna do? It's actually a miracle that they've been able to keep their jobs for so long while not showing up to work for months. As Joe said, this can't be even counted as a strike. And if anything, it sounds like a wildcat strike, something that's been prohibited under the Taft-Hartley Act. A wildcat strike is a strike action undertaken by unionized workers without union leadership's authorization, support, or approval. They're just hoping that by using the momentum of a different strike, they can somehow force Hoyoverse to sign their agreement. Do you realize how ridiculous this is? This is insane. I want to reiterate, if this was done in any other industry, you'd be fired within 24 hours, all right? And yet they're still doing it to this day. Then Joe talks about something that many people have been asking about. Okay, but what about the Taft-Hartley? What happens to non-union voice actors if Hoyoverse were to sign the interim agreement? Here's what he had to say.
The actor does not live in a right-to-work state. Now we're getting murky. You might have heard the term Taft-Hartley thrown around, and I advise you really just don't look too deep into this because it's confusing. It's a piece of labor law that actually has nothing to do with SAG-AFTRA. It was written in 1947 and designed as a path to both protect people from being forced to join unions, but also offer them more flexible ways to join if they want to. For our purposes, bringing it back to us, consider a Taft-Hartley like a temporary 60-day union pass to allow someone who is non-union to work on a union job. After that, they're considered a must-join, at which point, like the status implies, they must join the union or stop working union jobs. I'll break here for a second and tell you that it is significantly more complicated than that. There are caveats as to when the Taft-Hartley triggers, for example. It's also possible to negotiate an individual waiver with the union and say, look, I'm only ever going to work this one union job. Please don't make me join. I won't do anything else. And they can say yes. There's flexibility here. These, however, are edge cases that are just beyond the scope of this video. This will be a 5-hour video. In the simplest sense, you can do on a Taft-Hartley a very limited amount of union work as a non-union member before you have to join. And that sort of makes perfect sense if you think about it. The union offers actual tangible benefits, even for a single contract. Reaping those benefits without being a union member and paying your dues is like extending your Netflix free trial indefinitely. At some point, you gotta pay for what you're using. But being able to join the union for some actors can be a really good thing. Getting into the union is a stepping stone in many actors' careers, and it can actually be difficult to qualify for the union because, bizarrely, the only way into the union is if you get Taft-Hartley first and then join. Oh, simple. No, it's not. I don't want to delve too far into union membership here, but it is important to understand and consider why an actor might not want to join the union. The entry fee itself can be steep, depending on where you live. Mine was nearly $4,000 when I joined 10 years ago. So that talent would have to know for certain they were going to get at least 5 sessions out of Genshin to make up for that loss. That's about how much money you'd make in 5 union video game sessions, depending on the tier that you're in. Again, complicated. Or that actor would have to feel confident enough that they could book other union work to help them bring that number, that entry fee number, back to 0. You do get pension and health benefits, okay? But you only qualify for health benefits if you earn a certain income of union work, around $30,000 a year.
So this goes back to everything we said, of course. What was interesting, though, is that he had to pay $4,000 to join a union when SAG-AFTRA's website now says $3,000. Now, I will say that it is very refreshing watching Joe's video because while he does echo some of the same opinions as the other entitled voice actors, he presents them in a more realistic and conservative manner. But joining SAG-AFTRA specifically as a voice actor still doesn't really make a lot of sense. As a traditional actor, sure, you can make the case. But as a voice actor, 80% of your contracts are going to be non-union. Only 20% will be union and will contribute to your pension. Not to mention that the odds of you making enough to even qualify for health insurance are pretty damn low. Legal representation is really nice, sure, but it does feel weird to be locked behind SAG-AFTRA membership. If a non-union voice actor got their voice stolen, SAG-AFTRA could represent them, win the case, and set a precedent for every single voice actor on United States soil. That's what unions in Europe do, right? They stand up for everyone in the industry, not just people who are members. Asking for $3,000 from people who mostly do this as a hobby just doesn't make any sense, and that's a problem. Joe goes on to talk about what we already talked about as well, the fact that technically as a union member, working non-union contracts is not permitted, and he also talks about FICOR. He then goes on to talk about social media toxicity, how it doesn't help, and how, yes, this situation is quite complicated. We've understood that quite well. Unfortunately, Joe's intention didn't really work out as well as he had hoped, because many of the comments are left in utter confusion and were also disillusioned with the voice actors that have been participating in this discourse. I mean, look at this comment here with 4.6k likes saying, so let me get this right. Union voice actors are bullying a non-union voice actor for getting work with a non-union game, which isn't being struck by the voice acting union. A non-union project that union voice actors shouldn't even be working on. So it's okay for union workers to steal non-union voice actors' work, but if a non-union voice actor takes the role of a union voice actor who shouldn't even be striking, but is refusing to work, there's hell to pay. This is ridiculous. And this comment says, in their quest to not be replaced by AI, they seem to have completely forgotten that actual people can still replace them. This strike, as well as many of the Genshin voice actors that participated in this discourse on Twitter, were now seen as a complete and utter joke. Kiba Walker, who had already participated in this discourse, said, is it just me or was that video, the video we just watched, not helpful to the situation and now people hate us more? The unintended consequence of this video stretched far and
Yeah, because his goal is to clarify the situations. And then in reality, the situation was never benefit the voice actor in the first place. That's the thing. And part of the situation for the Hoyoverse one is just complete shadowboxing. It's shadowboxing out of permission from the union workers, and then shit happens because of this way.
And wide, with some people calling for every striking voice actor on Genshin Impact to get replaced immediately. People didn't care anymore. Yes, the video was 29 minutes long, but they could only focus on the part that said Genshin and Hoyoverse were never part of the strike to begin with. The voice actors who went completely unhinged on Twitter had lost all good faith. As this entire catastrophe was fully unfolding, Karina decided to post a picture with some very well-known Hoyoverse voice actors, one of them being the voice actor of the main male character in Genshin Impact. This was after the unhinged rant and the sitting in front of a toilet complaining about vomiting rant. Look, this might have just been an innocent picture, but you have to understand, many of these voice actors had not really expressed anything on Twitter during this crisis, but they were still caught in the crossfire because being in a picture with Karina after the insane unhinged rants meant that you approved of this behavior and meant that you thought the same way. Karina is now essentially a walking plague. Any other voice actor that is seen in the same picture is probably going to get hated too. It's just not a good thing to associate with someone like that right now. Look, overall, you made it to the end. Congratulations. Overall, this whole strike, as well as the fundamental need for SAG-AFTRA as a union, is now being questioned. It's pretty insane to witness a strike that has been going on for 8 months get hurt so much from a public relations standpoint in just the span of a week because of some entitled voice actors. SAG-AFTRA is a joke of a union, especially for voice.
Here's the thing, I won't really say it's entitled. I would say misguided. Very, very extremely misguided voice actors. And some are complete idiot that decided to do shadowboxing for no reasons. And they got the consequences and then cry about the consequences of shadowboxing. And shit keeps escalating. It's literally started by someone that have no idea about anything. You know what? If I ever have a clip that is me trying to shadowboxing for no reasons, I'll try to add that in. I'll let you guys understand what is try to shadowboxing while you don't know jack shit. Actually, I think I try my best to do in one particular one. And I think actually it pissed off Haley. I'm trying my best to shadowboxing like one particular subjects as much as possible. And yeah, actually, I really don't know jack shit about that thing. So I'm going to clip that things out in a context that is I'm legitly trying to shadowboxing some things, defend and shadowboxing some things that I have zero idea of. Okay? So it's going to be very long. This is a very good example, but yeah.
Voice actors, and they deserve better. And while you may be disillusioned with all English dub voice actors right now, I do want to point out that, look, most of them are actually very good people. I had the pleasure of speaking with one in particular, and he was one of the nicest people I had ever met. It just goes to show what a few bad apples can do to the reputation of an entire profession. It's something that will take a long time to recover. It's such a shame. In the end, though, many people are asking themselves, is Hoyoverse actually going to sign this agreement? After this, probably never. People are fully on their side now. Before, if they had recasted some voice actors, they would have probably faced backlash. Now, people are calling for the complete deletion of English dub in general. If they replace Karina as well as any other entitled voice actor on Twitter, hell, even the one striking and that said nothing about this, then the backlash would be minimal. And that's just
Hoyoverse, I'm trying to get into voice actors, so if you want a English voice actor, I'm here.
is the impact of this entire controversy. I do hope that voice actors and performers of all kinds actually do get AI protections because it's actually a problem, but this is not the way to do it, especially when you're striking on something that isn't part of the struck companies to begin with. Thank you so much for watching until the end. I really appreciate it. This video took a long time to make, so I'd appreciate it if you like, comment,
yeah, it's very
subscribe, all
informative.
that stuff, and also
like he really dug up in a lot of like situations to like let people understand the whole shit shows that are happening. I may say something unnecessary because it's somewhat of like mirroring what he's saying afterward, but yeah, it's like I can see that miles away in some sense. It's just not in the full context way. This guy really dug deep. Mujin literally dug deep into the trenches to see and understand the situations. Which this is a super duper good video and very informative, like in some sense, especially for people who is outside of voice acting. They would have zero idea, or any voice actor is like non-union based and very confusing in this like situations right now. And take a look at this. It's very, very good. Okay. And yeah, like go and find Mugen video. He does a lot of good shit in there. So yeah. All right. Let's got everything, like finally understand the saga of all these things. Makes me more understanding. Yeah, I get a much more understanding of this entire shit show. Complete by a shadow boxer. Not by a shadow boxer, by a group of shadow boxers. And then ruin the entire thing in some sense. Whew. But still, some sense, I would say I don't trust Union at this point. Maybe they, like, it's like, they try to draw a broad stroke. It's not like they are not doing good things. They are. It's just such a very wide, broad stroke. It's affecting a lot of things to the point that you're just randomly catching stray for no reasons. It affects like so many things in a sense that they did not anticipate. And again, like the contract and everything when it comes to like union stuff is like it's aged up like a long time ago. Alright? So yeah. It's a weird thing to talk about, but again, like it's a very aged up stuff. You know what? I guess like this will be I didn't expect I'll be like yapping and watching this thing for so long. So I was going to just do some drawing, but man, I used up all my energy just to yap and understand all these things. So I'm just going to delete I'm going to do some drawing and watching stuff after this. Just, just this. Okay? And yeah. Either way, thank you very much for anyone dropping by. And as always, stay healthy, stay safe. Until next time, stay tuned on the next stream. Bye-bye.